Chapter 870. Poplar fruit's popularity continued to rise. Nanyue Evening News in-depth analysis allowed many readers to see another side of China's top male model. Of course, if it was just Nanyue Evening News, its influence would be limited. However, it was the age of the internet, when all the media were confused and could not find any more information about poplar fruit. Nanyue Evening News received the first-hand report. Hence, all the major media outlets on the internet began to republish it. Before Nanyue Evening News could further expand its influence, Tung Sun's photo news began to enter people's eyes. Of course, words were not as impactful as pictures. Many office buildings, cafes, restaurants, and other places where people gathered. The following scene repeated itself. Xiaoyan, come. I'll show you a handsome guy. Don't show me that Korean transvestite you're always chasing. Sissy, disgusting. How can that be? He's obviously Chinese. Let me tell you, super handsome. Super handsome. The pretty girl named Xiaoyan looked over and saw a handsome guy standing there smiling on her best friend's phone. His hair was wet with sweat, and he was wiping it with a white towel in one hand. A ray of sunlight shone on his face, making it hard to tell whether it was the sunlight or his smile that was brighter. Isn't that poplar fruit? Xiaoyan covered her mouth and asked in surprise. She saw poplar fruit in the photo. He was wearing a singlet, revealing his well-proportioned and firm muscles. Against the contrast of the thin beads of sweat, he looked very manly. Does he look good? Her best friend asked Xiaoyan with a smile. Not only did he look good, Xiaoyan felt her heart racing and her face turning red. However, she could not take her eyes off the phone screen. She comforted herself that she was just admiring him. China's top male model should have such a good body. Handsome, right? Let me tell you, there are even more handsome ones later. Before her best friend finished speaking, her phone was snatched away by Xiaoyan. This photo was of Dong Run bringing a few photographers to Poplar Fruit's house early in the morning to shoot a day in the life of a Chinese. Even though they were early, arriving before 8 o'clock. However, Poplar Fruit's family woke up even earlier. When Dong Run and the others came over, Poplar Fruit had already brought his daughter and girlfriend back from the plaza dance. Recently, they had been going over every morning to help. It wasn't really helping. They were just exercising with the uncles and aunties for the sake of their health. Poplar Fruit didn't mind. After all, he had been working out consistently. However, Fong Bei had been working out for the past few days. Her mental state was much better than before. That was why Poplar Fruit was so happy to pull her up every day to work out. In addition to square dancing, Poplar Fruit also practiced Taiji Fist and Xingyi Fist after he came back. When he moved to a new home and had more space, Poplar Fruit would pick up the two-handed Miao Dao again. When Dong Run came over, Fong Bei had already slipped away. Poplar Fruit had just taken a shower. The sweat on Poplar Fruit's face was actually water vapor that had not been completely wiped off. After following Poplar Fruit for a day, Dong Run collected a lot of material. In the end, he only selected the best 13 photos. The second photo was of Poplar Fruit and Kiki having breakfast together. Kiki was surrounded by so many uncles. She was a little shy and refused to open her mouth. Poplar Fruit was feeding her with a smile. The whole photo was full of fatherly love. The third photo was of Poplar Fruit combing Kiki's hair. Kiki changed into a bright and beautiful dress. She was finally not so reserved. She smiled very brightly, like a cute little elf coming out of the garden. In the second and third photos, the main characters were still Poplar Fruit. However, with Kiki there, it was as if all the glory was shining on her. People liked her so much that they couldn't wait to take her out of the screen. In the last 10 photos, several of them were photos of Poplar Fruit giving a lesson to the students. After the lesson, the students surrounded Poplar Fruit and asked questions. Poplar Fruit, standing on the podium, was completely different from the usual Poplar Fruit. The usual Poplar Fruit was more reserved and quiet, like an invisible person. However, after he walked on the podium, he shone brightly. It was a little like he was walking on the runway. He was like a fish in water in his own field, in high spirits. Of course, Yangguo was not overly flamboyant. He was just showing off his strong confidence and elegant demeanor. He was like an old professor who had been in the field of linguistics for decades. Even though he was teaching without a script, he could still talk endlessly. After class in the morning, Poplar Fruit went to pick up Kiki. In the afternoon, Kiki was sleeping while he was sitting on the sofa reading. In the end, Dong Run asked him to sit beside the desk that was not so comfortable to take pictures. The small bookshelf was even rearranged by them, highlighting many books in different languages. It was as if this could better show Poplar Fruit's erudition. Poplar Fruit muttered in his heart, "If you see the 4 rows of bookshelves that are still at Inland's side, will you be shocked?" Although it was only the tip of the iceberg, Poplar Fruit still felt that this way of posing was a little too ostentatious, so his expression was a little stiff. Dong Run was only satisfied after taking a few photos. In the afternoon, Poplar Fruit was busy typing his thesis. Although Dong Run and the others did not manage to take photos of the screen in order to protect Poplar Fruit's intellectual property, they still managed to take photos of Poplar Fruit concentrating on his work. It was said that a focused man was the most handsome. Poplar Fruit pursed his lips and stared at the screen, capturing the hearts of many young girls who were yearning for love. Taking advantage of this boring time, a few photographers even went to look for Kiki. They played with Kiki and asked Kiki to tell them stories. Kiki still did not know what they were up to. However, with her father around, she was not afraid. Moreover, with someone playing with her, she was even happier. At the back, photos of Kiki actually occupied half of the screen. Even Dong Run, who originally took Poplar Fruit as the main character, could not help but kick Poplar Fruit away and replace it with the cute Kiki. 3 photos were chosen for the little girl. One was of her lying on the furry Goldie, as if she was riding a big horse. The warmth of her interaction with Goldie was touching. One was of Kiki hugging her Barbie doll and telling the photographers the story of Pleasant Goat solving Barbie. She had made it up herself. Although it was very nonsensical, the little girl's serious look was also extremely cute. The last photo was of the little girl being a little annoyed by the uncles and aunties' request to pose for photos. She pouted angrily. Although she was not happy, the audience could not help but smile. Later, Poplar Fruit cooked and invited a few reporters and photographers who had worked hard for the day to eat together. When he was cooking, he was also photographed. However, in the end, the photo of Poplar Fruit's last dish was chosen. In front of Poplar Fruit, who was wearing an apron, was a table of delicious food. No matter how one looked at it, it was appetizing. The side of Poplar Fruit that was good at living was also dug out. The last photo was of Kiki sitting on her father's neck. The 2 of them sent off the reporters under the afterglow of the setting sun. It could be seen that after the departure of the reporters, the happy life of Poplar Fruit's family continued. "He's really a good man," Xiao Yin enviously said what many girls were thinking. "I also want a handsome boyfriend who knows how to take care of people." Unfortunately, Kiki and that girl must be very happy. Then the question was, who was Poplar Fruit's girlfriend, the lucky girl? Chapter 871. The craziest rumor actually used Kiki as a target. The internet trolls spread rumors that Kiki was actually the proof of Poplar Fruit's chaotic early private life. What about her mother dying in childbirth? It was all a lie. Poplar Fruit relied on his handsome looks to deceive many ignorant girls. Among them, Kiki was born accidentally because of a failed protection measure. In order to not let the matter be exposed, Poplar Fruit had no choice but to accept this illegitimate daughter who was abandoned by her mother. Sometimes, rumors sounded more like facts, and the internet trolls actually fabricated such a non-existent mother. This made many fans who had once liked Poplar Fruit's fatherly love begin to doubt Poplar Fruit. Almost overnight, the evaluation of Poplar Fruit on the internet took a sharp turn. Poplar Fruit seemed to have become the target of public criticism. Many well-known Big V users followed the trend and forwarded the rumors about Poplar Fruit. Faintly, more and more internet trolls gathered behind this. Far away in Beijing, Lisa Chow's eyes were red. He refreshed Weibo overnight and sneered. That's right. This time, a large number of internet trolls collectively poured dirty water on Poplar Fruit. Yesterday afternoon, Qin Shui found Li Qingxiao on the phone and said that there was an excellent opportunity to deal with poplar fruit. However, he asked for a very high price, 1 million. Li Zichao had been annoyed to death by all kinds of news about poplar fruit recently. It was as if he saw his love rival standing in front of him and showing off their love. His hatred for poplar fruit had long been irreversible. However, he had spent so much effort to deal with poplar fruit, but it seemed to have no effect. Instead, he had a faint feeling that he had helped poplar fruit. How could Li Zichao not go crazy? Just as he couldn't sleep or eat, Qin Shui appeared in front of him like charcoal in the snow. After listening to Qin Shui's description over the phone, Li Zichao was overjoyed and immediately agreed to Qin Shui's plan. He wished he could beat poplar fruit to death with a stick. Not only did he give Qin Shui 1 million yuan, he also threw out an additional 3 million yuan to let Qin Shui gather more internet trolls. No matter what, this time, he had to ruin poplar fruit's reputation. Hee poplar fruit. Li Zichao gritted his teeth and said angrily, "Do you think that the 4 million I threw out would only cause such a small commotion? Just you wait." Huh. Back on the internet, the next day, many of poplar fruit's fans were about to turn into haters, and an old Weibo post that was quickly forwarded dragged this scandal into a confusing situation. Because there were busybodies who wanted to see how the other person of the top student couple would react, they searched for Wang Di's Weibo for a long time. In the end, they even found the clarification Weibo post that he had posted last month. After being quickly forwarded, and some big Vs who were purely fishing in troubled waters added fuel to the fire, this Weibo post spread widely. Everyone was surprised to find that everything didn't seem to be what they thought. The top student couple wasn't a couple at all? Then what was with the Weibo post he had posted previously? Wang Di finished his class during the day and turned on his phone's Weibo late in the afternoon. In the end, he saw that his Weibo had exploded. After understanding what was going on, Wang Di immediately posted a new Weibo post with a screenshot as proof. He said that he had never posted that Weibo post and that he had never said that Fang Beibei was his girlfriend. "I don't know what intentions you have, maliciously tampering with my Weibo to spread rumors, but please stop spreading rumors about me and Fang Beibei. Senior poplar fruit and junior Fang Beibei are a couple, and they have always been," Wang Di angrily wrote. "I can responsibly tell you that their relationship is very good and stable. On the day our team won the award, Senior Poplar Fruit specially rushed over from Bali, and there are photos to prove it. He even posted a sweet photo of Fang Beibei and Poplar Fruit holding the trophy after they received the award. In fact, before this, many of Poplar Fruit students and Fang Beibei's friends had posted on Weibo to clear Poplar Fruit's name. However, their words carried little weight after all, and their Weibo posts were like mud oxen entering water. Wang Di's Weibo post to clarify the matter quickly spread on the internet. After seeing Wang Di's Weibo post, the voices of public opinion gradually changed. Even some fans who were wavering were full of praise when they saw the photo. The two of them are a perfect match. It was strange. Although many of Poplar Fruit's fans were girls, very few of them would mindlessly attack his relationship. Although some would still say that Fang Beibei was lucky, most of them expressed their understanding and blessings. Perhaps this was because he had made his relationship status clear from the beginning and did not hide it, so the fans were already mentally prepared. In the afternoon, the rumors from the Internet Water Army began to lose their effect. This was because at this time, many respected seniors in the education industry, such as Luo Lin, Poplar Fruit's teacher, Chun Zongdai, and teachers from Higashiyama University who had interacted with Poplar Fruit, all stood up for Poplar Fruit. Even teacher Mo Yin, who had become a household name at the end of the year, posted on Weibo for the first time, supporting Poplar Fruit. He said that he did not believe that Poplar Fruit was such a morally corrupt person. The Poplar Fruit he knew was humble, studious, and a good student who had a sincere heart for learning. The Fast Track hosts also expressed their support for Poplar Fruit in front of the media under teacher He's lead. Poplar Fruit is morally corrupt? Do you think that a man who always takes his daughter with him, who carries his daughter's baby bottles and diapers in his backpack, who never eats first before feeding his daughter is morally corrupt. With so many influential people speaking up for poplar fruit, even the internet water army could not change the netizen side. After all, most people were not idiots. It seemed that when night fell, the scales of public opinion were slowly tilting towards poplar fruit. However, in a brightly lit hotel room in Yangcheng, Qin Shui was excitedly scrolling through Weibo on a few computers and mobile devices. When he saw this trend, not only did he not feel depressed, but he also rubbed his hands together as if the situation was under his control. Do you think this is the end? Qin Shui laughed. This is just the beginning. I will show you my Qin Shui's planning ability. He did this not to deliberately target poplar fruit, nor did he do this on a whim to help Lisa Chow. Now that there were more and more VIPs on Weibo, making money was not as easy as before. Only by showing the ability to stir up public opinion in the country could he gain more customers. And poplar fruit was just an opportunity for him to prove his loyalty. Because of him, the internet had been surging for the past few days. Was poplar fruit so isolated and ignorant? Where was he now? Chapter 872. Where was poplar fruit? At that moment, he was sitting on the sofa in Fong Beibei's house. Although it was a genuine leather sofa, poplar fruit was restless. His face was stiff, and his smile was uglier than his crying face. That's right, poplar fruit had met the parents. His child was almost 2 years old, and it was the first time he had met the parents. He was not mentally prepared at all, and he was forced to do something beyond his ability. It was the third day after Fong Beibei gave poplar fruit the love ring. During the day, the relationship between poplar fruit and Fong Beibei was exposed. The paparazzi's photos of Fong Beibei and poplar fruit were everywhere. Poplar fruit and Fong Beibei did not know about it. When they came back from class, one was busy doing homework, while the other was busy writing a thesis. They did not even have time to look at the news online. But Fong Beibei's family knew. The neighbor who had told them about the news of the straight-A couple came to gossip again. At that time, Fong Beibei's parents thought that it was just a rumor, just like the previous news. But this time was different. When they saw the photos online, they could not stay calm anymore. Fong Beibei and Yanghua held each other's hands as they walked around the campus. A mother knows her daughter best. Fong Beibei's mother could tell at a glance that Fong Beibei had fallen in love. However, what made them feel like a bolt from the blue was that the man Fong Beibei fell in love with was actually a man with a daughter. Although he was not a married man, nor a divorced man, wasn't the fact that he had a child more embarrassing than the previous two? Which parent would want their daughter to be someone else's stepmother? Even before they saw poplar fruit's background, they had already sentenced poplar fruit to death in their hearts. Come back right now. Fong Beibei's father was furious. He immediately called Fong Beibei and scolded her, then ordered her to go home immediately. Fong Beibei was shocked by her father's scolding. Even poplar fruit did not know that their relationship had been exposed, and Fong Beibei's parents knew about it before them. After putting down the phone, Fong Beibei ran to poplar fruit and hugged him and cried. She mumbled, "What should we do? Uncle, what should we do?" She asked poplar fruit, but poplar fruit did not know either. Although poplar fruit had already guessed that there would be a day when he would face Fong Beibei's family, he had never thought that he would be in such a passive situation. He had not even thought about how to face it, but it had already been placed in front of him. Don't worry. Poplar fruit could only comfort his girlfriend like this. No matter what, we'll face it together. But my mom is crying. Fong Beibei cried and said, I'm afraid to go home. If I go home, they won't let me out. They won't let me see you again. She was even more afraid that neither of them would be able to get through this hurdle. Wasn't it like this in the past? After a holiday, things were still the same, but people had changed. Fong Beibei was afraid. She was afraid that this would happen again. She was afraid that the pledge of eternal love from the past would become an unforgettable memory. She was afraid that the uncle who loved her and gave in to her would disappear. Poplar fruit was silent. He hugged Fong Beibei tightly, just like how she hugged him. He wanted to rub her into his body so that they would never be separated in this lifetime. Uncle, Why don't we elope? Fong Beibei's eyes were filled with tears. She raised her head and looked helplessly at Poplar Fruit. Idiot! Poplar Fruit patted Fong Beibei's but sighed and said, You're still talking about eloping at a time like this. Poplar Fruit looked at his girlfriend tenderly. He thought for a long time, gritted his teeth, and said, We have to face it no matter what. Baby, don't worry, I'll be with you. Let's go home. Huh? Fong Beibei looked at him blankly. I'll go home with you. I'll walk with you to your parents. I'll tell them personally that I'm sorry, that I love you, and that I want to marry you in the future. Poplar Fruit's voice was gentle, but his tone was firm. But Poplar Fruit didn't know that the Fangs didn't even give him a chance to speak. He drove to the Fangs' courtyard, holding Kiki and gifts in his left hand, and holding Fong Beibei's hand in his right hand, as if his son-in-law had come to visit. He pressed the Fangs' doorbell nervously, but it was the Fangs' parents who opened the door. The Fangs' mother grabbed Fong Beibei and dragged her into the house. The Fangs' father looked at Poplar Fruit cautiously and closed the door without saying anything. He didn't even let Poplar Fruit take a step forward. The door slammed shut, cutting off Poplar Fruit's line of sight to Fong Beibei, but it couldn't cut off Fong Beibei's heart-wrenching cries. It was as if he had heard Kiki's heart-wrenching cries. Poplar Fruit felt as if a knife was being twisted in his heart. He couldn't help but shout, Baby, don't cry, don't be afraid. I'm at the door, I'll wait for you at the door. Uncle, Annie, please give me a chance to explain. Fong Beibei's cries were cut off as the door closed, but Poplar Fruit's heart seemed to be connected to Fong Beibei's. He seemed to be able to hear that Fong Beibei was still crying in her home, in her bedroom. Kiki was almost scared to tears by this scene. She hugged her father's neck and pouted her little mouth. She sniffled and choked. Beibei's sister was kidnapped. Papa, Papa. Woo-woo. She wanted her father to rescue Beibei's sister, who had been kidnapped by the bad guys, just like the Pleasant Goat, but her father was indifferent. Poplar Fruit could jump over the wall, which was less than 3 meters tall. Poplar Fruit could easily break the 2 thin wooden doors with a flying kick. However, he couldn't cross the 2 gaps today, so he could only stand at the door anxiously. In the house, Fong Beibei was stopped several times when she tried to rush out. She lay on the bed and cried herself hoarse, crying until the sky turned dark. Mother Fong wanted to persuade her, but she wouldn't listen to anything she said. Poplar Fruit stood at the door and waited. He didn't eat dinner, but went to the car to make 2 bottles of milk for Kiki to drink. He wanted to accompany Fong Beibei because he knew that the lovely person inside didn't drink a single drop of water and didn't eat a single grain of rice. He won't stand there and wait for you. Just you wait and see. Mother Fong had already left some harsh words. After a while, through the bedroom window, she saw Poplar Fruit get into the car and call out to her daughter proudly, Come and see. Look, he can't take it anymore and wants to leave. However, Fong Beibei ignored her because she knew that Poplar Fruit would wait for her. He promised. Mother Fong didn't believe it. However, she saw a scene that shocked her. Poplar Fruit called Song Jiwen over and asked him to drive the car back and bring Kiki to his godmother, Lu Suqin. He couldn't bear to let Kiki suffer with him. However, he stayed behind and stood at the door of Fong Beibei's house, like a sentinel standing guard. When the evening lights were lit, Poplar Fruit was still standing at the door of Fong Beibei's house. It was late at night, and it was already past midnight. He raised his head, slightly, and looked at the window that was very close to the starry sky. The window was tightly shut, and the curtains were covering it. Even the lights were off. However, Poplar Fruit had a vague feeling that the girl he loved the most was also looking at him from that window. Chapter 873. Mother Fong was by her daughter's side. She nagged her the whole night, telling her that there were many men in the world, and she shouldn't ruin her reputation for one man. She repeated this over and over again. Fong Beibei argued, saying, It's not what you think. We're truly in love. Even if he has a daughter, I'm willing to take care of the child with him. However, Fong Beibei's mother refused to budge. She could only cry under the blanket. Fong Beibei, who was also worried about her boyfriend, rushed to the window several times to open the curtains. However, she was repeatedly pushed back by her strong father. After arguing and crying the whole night, Fong Beibei fell into a deep sleep. Fong Beibei's mother was still worried, so she stayed in the room and hugged the blanket as she took a nap on the small sofa. At night, Fong Beibei stood up quietly. In order not to wake up her wary mother, she only opened a small gap in the curtains and looked out. Suddenly, her dried tears burst out again. She almost choked with sobs. Her right hand covered her mouth tightly to stop herself from crying. Unlike before, her tears this time were tears of happiness. Through the window, through the dim streetlights not far away, Fong Beibei saw the man she had yearned for day and night standing in front of her door like a pine tree that had guarded Mount Huangshan for thousands of years. His back was straight, and he would never leave her. Poplar Fruit seemed to have seen her too. He raised his head. Although she couldn't see clearly, Fong Beibei could feel her boyfriend's love and care through space. Poplar Fruit raised his hand and placed it on her cheek. His head tilted slightly. Then he patted his chest and returned to his original standing position. He gazed at her with a warm smile. Fong Beibei understood the meaning of Poplar Fruit's simple gesture. He was saying, "Go to sleep. Don't worry. I'll take care of everything." Fong Beibei's tears flowed down. She still covered her mouth, but her face was filled with happiness. Even though she was extremely reluctant, Fong Beibei still obeyed her boyfriend's instructions in the end. She obediently returned to her bed and fell into a deep sleep with a lingering charm of happiness. After a long time, a soft sigh came from the sofa. Mother Fong opened her eyes and stared blankly at the ceiling. She had woken up when Fong Beibei started sobbing for the first time. She had seen Fong Beibei's every move. Mrs. Fong originally thought that Fong Beibei had gone astray because of a moment of willfulness. She was just like her when she was in junior high school. After some education, she would change obediently. She had been the representative of an obedient girl since she was a child. But now, it seemed that her daughter had really fallen into the trap, and it wouldn't be so easy to solve. The sun rose from the east. The first ray of sunlight pierced through the sky and shone on Poplar Fruit's wet hair. A new day had quietly arrived. Poplar Fruit had been standing in front of Fong Beibei's house for the entire night. His legs hadn't even moved from their sockets. Even Poplar Fruit's legs felt sore and numb. It was November in Yangcheng. Although it was still hot during the day, the temperature dropped quickly at night. Fong Beibei's house was close to the bay, so the night was chilly. It was as if winter had arrived. Poplar Fruit was only wearing a thin shirt. If it were someone else, they would probably be on an 4-drip at the hospital. Fortunately, Poplar Fruit had internal energy to protect his body. Even though he was standing, he was still using his internal energy to drive away the cold and fatigue in his body. Therefore, from the outside, his back was straight, and he looked as if he was still in high spirits. Although he had internal energy and only needed 3 hours of sleep a day, Poplar Fruit was still immortal. He hadn't slept for a day and a night, so his physical and mental fatigue was slowly creeping up on him. It was deeply hidden in his deep eyes. Creak! The Fong family's tightly shut door opened. Father Fong opened the door and walked out with one hand behind his back. He raised his head and saw Yang Guo standing at the door. His body trembled slightly, and he couldn't help but reveal shock in his eyes. "Uncle, cough, cough, good morning." Poplar Fruit hurriedly lowered his head and greeted him respectfully. His voice was a little hoarse because he hadn't had a drink the entire night. He even coughed dryly. Fong Xiu's father took a deep breath and slammed the door shut. He waved his hand and said stiffly, all right. Don't stand here and embarrass yourself. Our house doesn't welcome you." After that, Father Fong didn't wait for Poplar Fruit's explanation and left with a flick of his sleeve. Poplar Fruit smiled bitterly, but he wasn't discouraged. He continued to stand at the door. Not long after, Poplar Fruit saw Father Fong come back with a bag of steam buns and soy milk. He walked up to him eagerly, wanting to help. However, Father Fong waved his hand dismissively and chased him away. "Go away, don't get in my way." The door opened and closed. Poplar Fruit continued to stand. His stomach couldn't help but growl. Poplar Fruit's appetite was far greater than that of ordinary people. This was related to his internal energy. Now, he had already skipped 2 meals in a row and hadn't even drunk a sip of water. It would be strange if he wasn't hungry. Meanwhile, in Fong Beibei's bedroom, Fong Beibei sadly sat on the edge of the bed, hugging a pillow. She turned her head away, unwilling to respond to her mother, who was trying to persuade her. Mother Fong's heart ached, and she had a headache. Her daughter hadn't eaten or drunk for the whole night, and her small face had become much more haggard. However, no matter how much she tried to persuade her, Fong Beibei kept turning her head away. Even when she put a straw in the soy milk and put it under her lips, she didn't open her mouth. Beibei, Mother Fong sighed and said, "Why do you have to be so stubborn with your parents? Aren't your parents doing this for your own good? If you don't eat or drink, won't you be the one hurting yourself in the end?" Fong Beibei turned her head away and said softly in a hoarse voice, "If he doesn't eat, I'll eat with him. How can that be? He's just doing it for you to see." Mother Fong laughed and lied. "I got up last night to see him. I don't even know where he went to sleep last night. He only came back this morning to put on an act. When your dad went to buy breakfast, he even saw him squatting there and eating secretly." Father Fong used to be a primary school teacher and was an upright person. When he heard Mother Fong lying through her teeth, he couldn't bear to look at her, but he didn't say anything. "You're lying." Fong Beibei turned her head. Although her eyes were red and swollen, they were sharp as she looked at her parents. She shouted sternly, "He's just standing there. He's always been there. Do you know anything about him? Do you know how good he is to me? You only know how to oppose, oppose, oppose." Fong Beibei shouted herself hoarse. "What do you mean we don't know anything about him?" Mother Fong took her phone and slammed it on the table. She pointed at it and said, "Look at the news that your aunt sent me. Look at what kind of person he is. He plays with girls like you who don't know anything." Fong Beibei picked up the phone and glanced at it. She smiled coldly and threw it away. She hugged the pillow and returned to her bed. "You believe such gossip? If he's that kind of person, do you think I can't tell? Do you think that I still don't know anything?" Chapter 874. If he's a good person, why are there so many people scolding him online? Mother Fong retorted, "Old Fong, what's that saying again? Wind from an empty cave may not be without cause." Father Fong said in a low voice, "Yes, that's right. People wouldn't spread rumors about him for no reason. He's definitely not a good person. That's why people leaked information about him." Mother Fong said angrily. "Ahem." Father Fong coughed twice. He wasn't as extreme as Mother Fong. When he saw the rumors online, he felt that there was a lot of exaggeration. "What do you know? Poplar Fruit isn't that kind of person. Why don't you give him a chance and let him show you? Why do you keep listening to what others say? Can't you believe me?" Fong Beibei rarely spoke loudly to her parents. Today, her eyes were red as she shouted, "Old Fong, you talk to him too." Mother Fong said unhappily as she pushed Father Fong, who had been quiet all this time. Ahem. Father Fong was forced to stand up. He sighed and said, "It doesn't matter if he's a good person or a bad person. When he came yesterday, he brought a child with him, right? This can't be a rumor, right?" "That's right. A man who already has a child came looking for a virgin like you. What do you think he's up to?" Mother Fong said angrily. "What'd he be up to? He likes me, and I like him too." Fong Beibei cried. "So what if he has a daughter? I'm willing to marry him and help him take care of his daughter." Father Fong said in a low voice, "That's enough. Even if you don't think it's embarrassing, our Fong family does." Mother Fong interrupted, "That's right. Do you know how many times your aunts and uncles have called us yesterday? Do you know how worried we were when people said that you did that on the internet? I already told you that he's standing at the door. You can ask him yourself and see for yourself if he's as bad as the internet says." Fong Beibei shouted. She felt like she was going crazy. "Tell him to give up." Father Fong slammed the table and said, "Our Fong family, no matter how weak we are, we will not let our daughter marry a married man. He's never been married." Fong Beibei shouted herself hoarse. After shouting, she began to cry again. "Even if he isn't married, he has a daughter. This is definitely not allowed." Father Fong said resolutely, "We worked so hard to raise you. We can't let you be the stepmother of someone else's child. That's right. Bei, you're still young. You don't know anything. Mother Fong said earnestly. After a few years, when you grow up, you will find that there will be many, many good men for you to choose from. No, I've decided on him. Fong Bei shook her head. She was very tired from crying, and she was so hungry that she was dizzy. She no longer had the strength to argue. The sun was high in the sky, and lunch was over. Poplar Fruit and Fong Bei still did not eat. Poplar Fruit stood outside. He had not moved from the ground. Under the scorching sun, his face was slightly pale, and he was sweating profusely. Although his body was getting more and more tired, Poplar Fruit's eyes still maintained a determined look. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Song Jiwen and Chun Amlin drove Kiki to visit her father. Although the little girl was under the care of Grandma Lu Suchin and was quite obedient, she woke up early this morning and kept asking for her father. Papa! As soon as they got out of the car, Kiki happily ran toward her father. However, she ran too fast and did not pay attention to the uneven ground. The tip of her foot tripped on the ground, and she lost her balance and was about to fall to the ground. Poplar Fruit's body reacted quickly. In a flash, he held Kiki's body with both hands. Kiki was almost touching the ground when she was pulled back into her father's arms. Ouch! Kiki fell. Kiki giggled, squeezed in her father's arms, and said embarrassedly, "The sun is so hot. Go back with Uncle Mosquito." Poplar Fruit said in a hoarse voice, "You're talking about us. Look at you, standing under the sun. What are you doing?" Song Jiwen came over and held an umbrella for Poplar Fruit. Shin Amlin also held an umbrella to help him and himself to block the hot sun. "Your lips are dry and cracked," Chun Amlin said with a frown. "Brother Yang, I'll get you a bottle of water." "I'm fine. You don't have to give it to me. If I want a drink, I'll go back and buy it myself." Poplar Fruit forced a smile and said, "You go back first." No. Kiki wants to be with Papa." Kiki shook her head and said, "Kiki." Poplar Fruit looked at Kiki. Although his voice was not loud, he said unquestionably, "You have to be obedient and go back with Uncle Mosquito. Papa wants to stay here until we pick up Sister Bei. Then we can go home together." Song Jiwen also opened his hand, waved to Kiki, and said, "Let's go, Kiki. If we stay here, we will only hinder your papa." Kiki hesitated for a long time. She knew her papa's determination. She pursed her little mouth and finally did not cry. She obediently let Uncle Mosquito carry her away. "Goodbye, Papa." Kiki obediently waved to her papa, then reluctantly got into the car and left. After the car left, Poplar Fruit raised his head and looked at the Fong Bei's house. Although he could not see Fong Bei now, Poplar Fruit was somewhat anxious. He knew his own body. Although he was hungry and his stomach was growling, in reality, he would be fine even if he held on for another 2 days. But Fong Bei could not. "Baby, you should eat something first. Don't starve your body." Poplar Fruit frowned slightly and thought worriedly. However, just as he thought, Fong Bei was still starving. Her lips were dry, her face was pale, and she could not speak. She could only hug the pillow and cry until her tears dried up. Mother Fong anxiously walked up and down the stairs. Father Fong held a newspaper and read it for a long time, but did not turn the page. He could not go on like this. If this went on, before she changed her mind, he was afraid that he would not be able to live. Finally, with a creak, the iron gate of the Fong family's house was opened. Father Fong's face darkened. He looked at Poplar Fruit, who was standing there, and was silent for a long time before he said, "Come in and talk." Poplar Fruit licked his lips, but even his tongue was dry. He took a deep breath, followed behind Father Fong, and walked into the house that he had been waiting for an entire day and night. Before he entered the house, Mother Fong hurriedly walked out. She first glared at Poplar Fruit, then said angrily, You hurry up and persuade her to eat something? She has already fainted twice." The situation seemed to be very urgent. The Fong family did not want to let the culprit enter the house, but they had to take a step back temporarily. Their daughter's health was more important. When Poplar Fruit heard that Fong Bei had fainted, his body trembled as if he had been struck by lightning. Without waiting for Mother Fong to lead the way, he even forgot to take off his shoes. He dodged Mother Fong and rushed into the house in a panic. He rushed upstairs to the approximate location of Fong Beibei's room that he had sensed last night. Chapter 875. Shoes. Mother Fong shouted anxiously when she saw Poplar Fruit, leaving a footprint on the wooden floor. Father Fong pulled her back and said in a deep voice, all right. Look at the situation now. Why are you still complaining about shoes?" Poplar Fruit rushed up the stairs. There were several rooms on the second floor. He pushed open one of the doors and saw Fong Beibei hugging a pillow as she lay on the bed. He didn't notice her and didn't even glance at the other decorations in the room. Poplar Fruit only had eyes for the girl who was wearing yesterday's clothes and had messy hair. The girl who didn't wake up, even when his footsteps were so loud. "Baby." Poplar Fruit walked over and gently carried Fong Beibei. He caressed her haggard face and gently called out to her. Fong Beibei only fainted from hunger and her mental state was a little weak, but she was fine. She slowly opened her eyes when Poplar Fruit called out to her. "Uncle." Fong Beibei raised her hand and her eyes flashed with surprise. Her voice was even worse than Yang was. From last night until today, she didn't know how many times she had screamed at her parents. She screamed until her voice was hoarse. Coupled with the fact that she hadn't drunk any water, her voice sounded like sandpaper rubbing against each other. Don't talk first. Poplar Fruit raised his head in a panic and found a glass of water that Mother Fong had poured for him on the table. He touched it and found that it was a little cold. He picked up the kettle and poured some hot water to rinse it before returning to Fong Beibei's side. Fong Beibei recovered some strength and supported herself. She leaned into Poplar Fruit's broad embrace. "Come, open your mouth and drink some water. Be good." Poplar Fruit held the glass of water to Fong Beibei's dry lips as if he was coaxing a child. Fong Beibei bit the edge of the glass and drank mouthful after mouthful of water as Poplar Fruit gently lifted her hand. Poplar Fruit was slightly happy when he saw the clear water leave a mark on Fong Beibei's lips. Fong Beibei's breathing seemed to be less chaotic and weak because of the water. Probably because she was too thirsty, Fong Beibei drank the water in a hurry. Poplar Fruit didn't dare to raise his hand too quickly for fear that she would choke. But seeing her drink the water, Poplar Fruit couldn't help licking his tongue. Fong Beibei's eyes gradually regained some vigor. She suddenly stopped. She held the glass of water and gently pushed it in Poplar Fruit's direction. She said in a hoarse voice, "You drink too." Poplar Fruit didn't refuse because he knew that if he didn't drink it, with the baby's stubbornness, she would never finish the glass of water by herself. Poplar Fruit raised his hand and drank a small mouthful. The precious water slid down his throat. Poplar Fruit felt like a traveler in the desert who encountered an oasis. His life was about to explode. "Okay. I drank it. Hurry and drink more." Poplar Fruit resisted the urge to drink 2 more mouthfuls and continued to feed Fong Beibei water. This scene was witnessed by Father and Mother Fong, who were standing at the door. At this moment, their emotions were so complicated that it was as if they were in a mess. Ahem. Seeing that Fong Beibei finished the glass of water, Poplar Fruit was still hugging her. He held her face and stroked her red and swollen eyes. The two of them were so sweet and tender that it was as if they were the only ones left in the world. Father Fong couldn't help but cough twice. "Uncle." Poplar Fruit nervously held the glass of water and turned his head. He wanted to stand up, but he was afraid that Fong Beibei would lose her support and fall back onto the bed. Fong Beibei was the same. She looked up at her father nervously, but her arms were tightly hugging Poplar Fruit, as if she was worried that her father would do something to Poplar Fruit. A grown girl can't be kept at home. Father Fong closed his eyes, sighed, and said, "Okay, old woman, leave the food here. After you guys finish eating, come down to the living room to talk." Mother Fong put down the plate of food heavily, snorted, and followed Father Fong downstairs. After Father and Mother Fong left, Poplar Fruit carried Fong Beibei, who was as light as a feather, from the bed. He was about to carry her to the desk, but Fong Beibei clung on a poplar fruit's neck and refused to sit down. In the end, she clung on a poplar fruit and asked him to sit on the chair first. Then, she sat on poplar fruit's lap and clung onto it. Fong Beibei saw a glimmer of hope when her father relented. However, she was still worried that her parents would go back on their word. She clung on a poplar fruit, not because she wanted to act like a spoiled child like my daughter, but because she was worried that this was a dream. When she woke up from this dream, poplar fruit would disappear. You eat too. Under poplar fruit's gentle feeding, Fong Beibei ate a mouthful of rice. Then, she looked lovingly into poplar fruit's eyes and said in a hoarse voice, "Okay, I'll eat too. I'll drink a glass of water first." Poplar fruit smiled. He poured another glass of water and gulped it down. He was also thirsty. One glass wasn't enough, so he drank another glass. "Uncle." Fong Beibei reached out her hand and gently stroked poplar fruit's peeling lips. Her voice was choked with sobs. "Okay, don't cry. Aren't I already by your side?" Poplar fruit smiled gently. "But I won't allow you to starve yourself like this in the future. I'm in good health, so it's okay for me to starve a little longer. Why are you so silly, learning from me? Do you know that when you faint from hunger, I'm actually the one who is the saddest?" Poplar fruit held Fong Beibei's small hand, placed it on his chest, and affectionately said, "If you can persevere, then I can persevere." Fong Beibei leaned into poplar fruit's embrace, nodded vigorously, and murmured, "Come, let's continue eating." Poplar fruit stirred the rice, cut the meat into pieces, scooped up a small spoonful, and delivered it to Fong Beibei. She obediently opened her mouth and ate a mouthful. "It's my turn." Fong Beibei hugged poplar fruit's waist with her right hand and used her left hand to snatch the spoon from poplar fruit's hand. She clumsily scooped up a spoonful of rice mixed with soup and shakily delivered it to poplar fruit. Poplar fruit was worried that she wouldn't be able to hold it properly, so he hurriedly took the spoon in his mouth and ate the rice. He smiled and said, "And it's delicious." Just like that, the two of them didn't seem to care that they were in Fong Beibei's house at all. They fed each other as if no one was around. Luckily, Father and Mother Fong went downstairs and didn't see this scene. They finally finished eating. Poplar fruit had to follow Father Fong's request and go downstairs to answer a question. "I'll go too." Fong Beibei's voice hadn't fully recovered, and every word she said took a lot of effort. She hugged Poplar fruit's arm and said bravely. Poplar fruit gently rubbed Fong Beibei's neat bangs, smiled, and said, "No, if you go down, they won't be happy. I'll have to face Uncle and Annie sooner or later. So this time, let me go down alone. Let me persuade them." But Fong Beibei was very anxious. She spoke for a while, but no sound came out. "It's okay. Trust me." Poplar fruit patted her hand and said with a smile. In the end, he reminded her, "Drink more water, rest, and wait for my good news." Chapter 876. The Fangs were half of the countryside. Shannon District was far from the city center, far from the economic prosperity. It was even less important than Buddha City to Yangcheng. However, in recent years, the development of this district had caught up. There were rumors that Shannon District would become Yangcheng's Dongpu District, leading Yangcheng to a new era of development. Of course, this was all just an illusion. It had nothing to do with the Fangs and poplar fruit. Before coming down, Poplar fruit confidently told Fong Beibei that he could do it. However, when he really came down, he sat nervously on the sofa in the living room. Small beads of sweat formed on his forehead. It seemed that Father and Mother Fong wanted to give Poplar fruit a heads up. When Poplar fruit came down, Father Fong told him to wait in the living room. Then, Father Fong and Mother Fong sat in the dining room and ate slowly. They didn't say a word, giving Poplar fruit a huge pressure from afar. So this is the place where Bao Bao grew up. Yang was secretly looked around the Fong family's small bungalow. Fong Beibei had talked to him about their childhood. At the time, this was an inherited ancestral home. It was very big, a few hundred square meters house with a rather large courtyard. At the very least, it wouldn't be a problem to have a vegetable garden and 2 parking spaces for private cars. However, before Fong Beibei was in junior high school, her family was quite poor. Her father was a primary school math teacher, and her mother was an accountant in town. Other than their daily expenses, they didn't have any extra money to build a house for them. When Fong Beibei was in junior high school, her father and mother went into the sea and opened a stationery shop in front of a nearby middle school. Later, the stationery shop wasn't very popular, so they changed it to a trendy milk tea shop. Then, they changed it to a board game bar with catering and entertainment. It had to be said that Father Fong had a good eye for business. His board game bar eventually grew from 1 room to 2. Until now, Father Fong and Mother Fong were still hiring people to manage it and leaving it to others. When Father Fong opened the stationery store, he had saved up a sum of money and renovated the small rented house into a beautiful 3-story bungalow. However, it could be seen that the Fong family was still rather thrifty. Fong Beibei's personality was also inherited from them. There were no gorgeous decorations or expensive furniture in the house. It was very simple and down-to-earth decoration and matching. It looked very warm and had the taste of home. "Where are you from?" Father Fong walked over unsteadily with a cup in his hand. His sudden question broke the silence in the room that made people panic. "Hello, Uncle." Papa Fruit hurriedly stood up and bowed. He honestly told them the address of his hometown, the exact village, and the number. "Oh, does that mean you're from the countryside?" Father Fong raised his eyebrows and asked casually. Just now, he had been secretly observing Poplar Fruit's every move. When he saw that Poplar Fruit did not do anything out of the ordinary, he thought that Poplar Fruit was from the city. "Yes, my family is from the countryside, but I don't have a household register anymore. After I went to university, I moved my household register to Yangcheng." Poplar Fruit replied nervously. "Have a seat." Father Fong waved his hand and gestured for Poplar Fruit to sit down. His impression of Poplar Fruit was actually quite good. The young man was tall and handsome, and he cleaned himself up well. Furthermore, he stood outside without eating, drinking, or resting for an entire day and night. This kind of perseverance was not something that an ordinary child could have. However, when he thought of how Fong Zhengji had a child and still came to provoke his daughter, Father Fong felt as if a fishbone was stuck in his throat. "That child from yesterday is yours?" Father Fong asked coldly. "Yes," Poplar Fruit replied without hesitation. "But Uncle, please don't worry. We have a very good relationship. The Beibei really likes my daughter, and I won't let Beibei suffer. Won't let her suffer? Let me tell you, young man, you're young and don't know any better. I can forgive you, but do you know what it means to suffer?" Mother Fong rushed out and pointed at Poplar Fruit as she scolded. "You want her to be the stepmother of your child. That's letting her suffer." Poplar Fruit was speechless. He didn't know how to reply. Poplar Fruit. Hearing a series of footsteps, Poplar Fruit turned around to see Fong Beibei rushing down the stairs. She didn't listen to her mother's instructions to rest, but had been hiding on the stairs to eavesdrop. When she heard her mother making things difficult for Poplar Fruit, she hurriedly rushed down. She didn't give her parents time to react as she hugged Poplar Fruit's arm. She used all her strength to support her hoarse voice and said, "I don't feel wronged." Poplar Fruit's heart ached as he pressed down on her hand and helped her sit down. He reached out his left hand and condensed a wave of internal energy to massage Fong Beibei's throat. He said, "Why did you come down? Didn't I tell you to rest? Don't talk. When the time comes, your throat will be damaged from all the shouting." Fong Beibei once again felt the magic of Poplar Fruit. Under his massage, her throat was originally a little sore, but now she felt the warmth of a sour mama ma. She didn't care that her parents were sitting in front of her and smiled sweetly at Poplar Fruit. "Come over here. Don't you feel embarrassed?" Mother Fong finally couldn't stand it anymore. She reached out to grab Fong Beibei and wanted to pull her over to sit on the sofa opposite her. Just now, her daughter had fainted. In order to let her daughter eat something, no matter how unhappy she was, she could only endure it. But now, how could she watch someone touch and rub her daughter? It's okay. Poplar fruit helped to calm Fong Bei, who wanted to struggle. Listen to your mother. How old are you this year? Father Fong asked in a deep voice. His words made Mother Fong, who still wanted to make things difficult, swallow her words. Just 25 years old. Poplar fruit replied with a smile. 25 years old. Father Fong frowned. That wasn't very old. He seemed to have misunderstood before. He felt that poplar fruit was mature and calm, which was different from his age. Moreover, with the fact that poplar fruit had a daughter, Father Fong thought that poplar fruit was at least a youth above 30 years old. Then, what are you doing for a living now? Father Fong asked. Before he could think of a way to separate poplar fruit and Fong Bei, he had to have a detailed understanding of poplar fruit. Didn't his daughter say that she wouldn't give him a chance to explain himself face to face? Father Fong was confident that during his interrogation, poplar fruit's true colors would be revealed. Speaking of which, they really didn't look into poplar fruit's background in detail. The most they knew was the false rumors sent by their relatives. I don't have a stable job at the moment because I'm still a student. Poplar fruit scratched his head and said to Father Fong, I'm currently studying at Higashiyama University. I'm classmates with Bei. Poplar fruit had always been very honest. Chapter 877. Student. Father Fong raised his eyebrows. He thought poplar fruit was talking about a model or something. He still remembered the screenshot that their relative had sent them on Weibo. It seemed like the introduction of poplar fruit was that he was a famous model. Since he was a student, there was more to talk about. First, Mother Fong opened her mouth and said, Student, how did your teachers teach you? Is going to school to date? Don't you know that puppy love is dangerous? I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about Bei. She's still young and doesn't know anything. You're playing with her feelings. Have you ever considered the harm you're doing to her? Auntie, puppy love refers to those before the age of 18. Poplar fruit laughed bitterly and blurted out. He then looked at Fong Bei worriedly, afraid that she would think too much. Luckily, Fong Bei's expression didn't change. She just looked at her mother angrily. Also, Bei and I are mature adults now. We love each other. It's not a blind adolescent impulse. Poplar fruit explained. I like Bei because I want to marry her in the future. I'm not playing with her feelings like you said. I will give her happiness. What do you have to give her happiness? Father Fong slammed the glass of water on the table, startling Fong Bei. His tone didn't change as he said in a low voice, You're just a university student from the countryside. You still have to raise your daughter. What do you have to give Bei happiness? Don't tell me you're a model. Father Fong slammed the table and said sternly, Don't use this kind of job as an excuse. Do you think I don't know? This industry is the dirtiest and most unstable. What do you have to give my daughter happiness? Father Fong's 3 consecutive questions had completely stirred up their anger. Mother Fong raised her head and stared at poplar fruit as if she wanted to see poplar fruit speechless. Uncle, you misunderstood. Poplar fruit explained, I was just helping a friend before. I didn't plan to make a living as a model. Don't worry. Even if I don't become a model, I can still earn enough money for us to not have to worry about food and clothes. I know. Graduate students get a few hundred yuan allowance. You're still in school, and you haven't even gone out into society. You think that money is enough for you to eat? Father Fong sneered. You're too naive. Do you think this is happiness? When you enter society, you won't even have enough money to rent a house. Is this what happiness is? You want to take our daughter away without a house or a car? Dream on. Mother Fong said with a look of disdain. I know what a young man like you is thinking. You see that our Bei's family is doing well, and that she's an only child, so you want to covet our family's property and assets? Mother Fong laughed coldly and said, That's right. When we're old, all of our assets will be handed over to Bei. We're also willing to help our son-in-law when he's in trouble. However, a young man like you who wants to reap without sowing can forget about stepping into our Fong family's doors. Mother Fong's words came out like a machine gun, and she didn't give poplar fruit a chance to explain. The more Fong Bei listened, the weirder her expression became. She tugged at her mother's arm. Why are you tugging at me? Fong Bei, aren't you siding with outsiders more and more now? Mother Fong was furious. She pointed at Fong Bei and scolded her. Look at you. When you were in junior high and high school, your father and I were watching over you, and you were so obedient. You even got into Higashiyama University in advance. But in your first year in university, your father and I let you go and try your luck. What have you become now? You even brought back a man who lives off a woman. And you even said that you're willing to be someone else's stepmother. You're only willing to do this because you want to anger me to death, right? Mother Fong scolded and cried emotionally. She wiped her tears and said, Yes, I used to hit you and scold you because of your puppy love, and I even forced you to separate. But you have to understand that I did this for your own good. You brought him back just to spite me, right? But do you know that you're harming yourself by doing this? As she spoke, Fong Bei couldn't help but wipe her tears. Poplar Fruit quickly stood up and took out tissues from the tissue box beside him. He handed them to Fong Bei and her mother. Mother Fong subconsciously took the tissues and wiped her eyes. When she saw that it was Poplar Fruit, her mood immediately changed. She scolded him harshly. Get out of here. I don't need you to stand here hypocritically. Get out. Get out of our house. Mom, can you let me say something? Fong Bei held onto Mother Fong, who was about to explode, and said in a hoarse voice. She had just let Poplar Fruit relieve the pain in her throat. Now that she spoke forcefully, she felt like her throat was being torn. Mother Fong still cared about her daughter. She quickly pulled Fong Bei to sit down and said, Don't talk. Look at your voice. Annie, let me do it. Poplar Fruit was also anxious. He waved at Fong Bei and said, Baby, come over here. Mother Fong reached out to pull her, but Fong Bei ran over to Poplar Fruit's side and sat down. She snuggled into Poplar Fruit's arms and let him gently massage her throat. You. Mother Fong's eyes widened. She was about to explode in anger. Fong Bei's actions in front of them were clearly telling them that she was now on Poplar Fruit's side. Even if she ran away with him, it was not impossible. Shoo. Fong Bei felt a little better. When she wanted to move, Poplar Fruit knew what she was going to do. He pressed a finger on her lips and said with a smile, Don't talk. I know you want to help me explain. I'll do it myself. Poplar Fruit felt that Fong Bei had calmed down a little. He couldn't help his girlfriend fully recover in such a short time, so he helped Fong Bei up. If they continued to stick together like this, Mother Fong and Father Fong would both explode, let alone Mother Fong. He got up and poured a cup of warm water for Fong Bei, as if it was his own house. He even used his hand to feel the temperature of the water and handed it to Fong Bei. Then, he sat up straight and said to Mother Fong, Uncle, Auntie, you really misunderstood me. Although I'm still a student and don't have a stable job, I still have an income. Poplar Fruit felt that it was inappropriate to praise himself. He tried to be humble and said, I'm a language major. Usually I have some desk jobs like translation, so I can earn money at home. I also translate some books for the publishing house, which is also paid. Also, you mentioned the house and car just now. Poplar Fruit said, a little embarrassed. Actually, I already have a car. As for the house. Chapter 878. As for the house, I haven't gotten the key yet, so I'm still living in a rented apartment. Poplar Fruit said sincerely. But, Uncle, Annie, don't worry. I'll be able to hand over the house by February next year, after the spring festival. I'll be paying in full, and I'll be able to move in after the renovation and furniture. Poplar Fruit smiled. Plus, the house is close to our school. It'll only take 10 minutes to drive there. It'll be very convenient for the baby, Bei, and me to go to school. Poplar Fruit was used to calling her baby, so he couldn't change the way he addressed her. It sounded very awkward to Mr. and Mrs. Fong. Do you think that we don't have the money to buy her a house? Mr. Fong was upset. Are you showing off in front of us with a house? Exactly. Do you think that we're such tacky parents? Mrs. Fong seemed to have forgotten that Fong Zhao was the one who had said that he wanted a house and a car. She said righteously, You want us to sell our daughter off with a house? Let me tell you, in your dreams. Fong Bei was a little agitated. She opened her mouth to speak, but Poplar Fruit squeezed her hand and didn't let her speak. Uncle, Annie, please forgive me. Poplar Fruit smiled bitterly and said, "Maybe I was exaggerating just now, but please understand that I wasn't trying to show off. I just wanted to prove to you that I have the ability to give Bebe happiness." "Don't talk about happiness. It's impossible for you to have a child," Mrs. Fong said angrily. There was no point in continuing the conversation. After talking for a long time, they were back to square one. Mr. Fong coughed twice and asked, "Tell us, what's the story about you playing with a female student's feelings?" Poplar Fruit smiled bitterly and said, "Uncle, you don't know. I don't know who's targeting me, but whenever they have the chance, they'll throw dirty water at me. In September, I helped a friend in Bali as a guest model. That's what happened, and now they're popping up again. However, you can rest assured that these rumors are all fabricated by them." Poplar Fruit said resolutely as he continued, "When I teach my students, Bebe would sometimes visit me. She also knows that I'm a serious person." Although it felt weird to say that he was serious, Poplar Fruit still spoke the truth. Fong Bebe nodded. Although she usually liked to call Poplar Fruit Uncle or Weird Uncle, in fact, it was just some fun between couples. "Class, aren't you a graduate student?" Father Fong asked in confusion. "Yes." Poplar Fruit nodded and said, "But I'm still working part-time as a teaching assistant. Because I might be teaching 1 or 2 public elective courses next semester, I've been helping out this semester." Father Fong was a little confused. He felt that Poplar Fruit's words were a little different from his understanding of the world. He asked in confusion, "You're about to graduate? Why can you start working as a teaching assistant?" "I'm in my first year of graduate school." Yang Guo explained, "I'm different from the other students. I know a few more languages than them. The school hopes that I can experiment through the public elective course to see if it's feasible. If the results are good, there might be an additional language major in the future." "So, you going to be a teacher in the future?" Father Fong and Poplar Fruit started to talk about this topic. He was a teacher. Although he was only an elementary school teacher, Father Fong's education was not simple. He graduated from Shuimu University in the 1980s with a bachelor's degree in mathematics. An undergraduate student in that era was no less valuable than a graduate student today. What's more, he was from Shuimu University. If Fong Bebe hadn't been so good at her subjects and held her back in English, her parents would have still wanted her to get into Shuimu University. "It should be." Poplar Fruit nodded and smiled. Bebe said that her dream is to study for a master's degree and then stay in the school. "It's good that we can take care of each other." Fong Bebe raised her head and looked at Poplar Fruit. Poplar Fruit also lowered his head and smiled at her. Poplar Fruit smiled brightly. His smile was very gentle, as if there was a scholarly aura gently blooming on his face. Some people could not feel it, but Father Fong, who used to be a teacher, could feel it. He suddenly realized that he was very satisfied with the big boy in front of him. He was highly educated, good-looking, good to his daughter, and had the same interests as her. Mother Fong felt that the atmosphere was a little strange. It was as if her father had been deceived by this guy. Mother Fong knew that Father Fong had once said that he hoped that his daughter could find a teacher as her husband in the future. She said unhappily, "All right, he hasn't graduated yet. He can't be a teacher yet. Well, since you're here, I'll give you a chance. Tell me, what's going on with your child?" Mother Fong asked. She thought to herself, "Tell me, make up a story. You're so young, but you have such a big child. You must have done a lot of bad things in the past. Bebe doesn't know, but people like us who have been through this before will definitely be able to expose you." To be honest, Poplar Fruit was not very willing to talk about this matter. A few days ago, he had only said a few words to the news agency. Now, sitting in front of Fong Bebe's parents, he could not help but force himself to remember this painful past. 10 minutes passed. That's what happened. When I rushed to the hospital, she was already dying. She passed the child to me and left. Poplar Fruit sighed. Fong Bebe was sad to hear this. She looked at Poplar Fruit with tears in her eyes. Mother Fong wanted to find fault with Poplar Fruit, but after listening for a long time, she could only hear the truth. She could not tell that Poplar Fruit was lying in any way. However, Mother Fong was still a little unconvinced. She said, "How would we know that you didn't make up all these things?" "How could I?" Poplar Fruit frowned. He was a little angry, but he suppressed it. He said calmly, "How could I make up something like this?" Kiki's mother left behind a few diaries and some photos. I kept them and was going to show them to Kiki when she grew up. Of course, Bebe saw them before. Fong Bebe nodded and held Poplar Fruit's hand. She seemed to want to comfort Poplar Fruit. "All right, stop arguing about this," Father Fong said unhappily as he pulled Mother Fong aside. "He's already gone. Why are you still talking about this?" From the moment Poplar Fruit entered the house until now, Father Fong had seen everything that he had said and done. To be honest, if he put aside Kiki, who was his Achilles heel, he had a good impression of Poplar Fruit. Not only did he have a good impression of him, but he also felt that Poplar Fruit was the perfect candidate for his son-in-law. It wasn't that Father Fong had completely changed sides. The fact that Poplar Fruit had a daughter still made him feel very conflicted. However, he was no longer one-sided. He gradually started to look at the problem of Poplar Fruit and his daughter from an objective point of view. Chapter 879. As soon as Father Fong said this, Mother Fong immediately glared at him with a gaze as sharp as a knife, as if she was looking at a traitor who had switched sides halfway. However, even if Father Fong said that, Mother Fong didn't change her first impression of Poplar Fruit, a lecher who played with her daughter's feelings. In the end, it was Chi-Chi's problem that was too difficult for her to accept. It caused her to lose even her most basic judgment, and judge a person based solely on her own imagination. "You're 25 this year." Mother Fong squinted her eyes and pretended to be fierce. Her expression was similar to Fong Bebe's. Fong Bebe probably learned it from her mother. She liked to squint her eyes when she was fierce. However, they didn't know that this wasn't fierce at all. It couldn't even scare a child. "Yes," Poplar Fruit quickly replied. "Then, before Bebe, you must have had a girlfriend before, right?" Mother Fong asked one step at a time. "I had a girlfriend," Poplar Fruit nodded and said honestly. "Mom." Fong Bebe frowned and couldn't help but call out. Mother Fong was happy. She thought, "You're right to be anxious. Don't worry. Let Mom help you interrogate this man. You'll see his true colors." Mother Fong then asked Poplar Fruit, "Only one? Then why did you break up? How long were you together?" 5 years, 4 years in university, and 1 year after graduation. Poplar Fruit was very honest. He scratched his head and said embarrassedly, "The reason we broke up was because of Kiki. She had a more realistic view of marriage and couldn't accept Kiki. She wanted to leave, so we broke up in the end." "Did you see that? Did you see that? Who can accept a child?" Mother Fong slapped the sofa's armrest and pointed at Poplar Fruit with her sharp teeth. She wasn't a bad person, but her mouth was a little hard to accept. Poplar Fruit felt very uncomfortable with Mother Fong's words. He kept silent and didn't know how to answer. Fong Bebe coughed and said hoarsely, "Mom, how can you say that about Poplar Fruit? It wasn't easy for him to raise a child alone." "Yes, it wasn't easy." Mother Fong shook her head and said, "Who has it easy raising a child? I know it's hard for him to be both a father and a mother, but this sin was caused by him, so he has to bear it. But Bebe, Mom knows that you're kind, but marriage isn't a child's play. Sympathy can't be treated as love." Poplar Fruit was worried about the condition of Fong Bebe's throat. He pulled Fong Bebe's hand and said, "Let me say it." He turned to look at Mother Fong and said, "Auntie, you don't know, but Bebe understands things better than I do. When I confessed to her, she made me think about a question. Is it because I love her, or is it because I just want to find a mother for my daughter? Isn't that the case?" Mother Fong couldn't help but mock. Yangwood didn't pay attention to her sarcasm. Instead, she reminisced. "In the beginning, I was very confused. I didn't understand why Bebe would ask such a question, so she told me to go back and think clearly before coming back to tell her." At that time, Bebe had just finished her first year of university. Poplar Fruit said, "During the holidays, I brought my daughter and teacher to Chongcheng to attend a translation conference. When we came back, we were teaching in a Hmong village in Guishan province. We lived there for a month and the phone signal was unstable on the mountain. It was almost like we were isolated from the world. In that environment, I thought it through. Actually, I liked Bei Bei, not because she was good to my daughter, but because I liked her as a person. I liked her kindness, her serious attitude, and her dazed expression when she was doing her homework. Poplar Fruit continued with a hint of sweetness in his seriousness. Every day on the mountain, I couldn't wait to go back to Yangcheng and end this period of yearning. Then, I could tell her my answer in person. Uncle Annie. Poplar Fruit stood up and bowed sincerely. I know that you are doing this for Bei Bei's good. You want her to have a good home. I also know that the fact that I have a daughter will bring a lot of trouble to Bei Bei and your family. But I hope that you can forgive me, and please believe me. Poplar Fruit said, my feelings for Bei Bei are sincere. I love her, and I am willing to take care of her and protect her. She's just like my daughter. She is the most important thing in my heart. But how can a person's heart be divided in half? Mother Fong was silent for a long time. She couldn't find a reason to refute. In the end, she said in a weak voice. She felt that it was ridiculous to say this. It can't be divided in half. Poplar Fruit couldn't help but explain. Bei Bei and my daughter are two different concepts. Love and fatherly love are different. Now, it seemed that both sides were in a tug-of-war again. Father Fong and Mother Fong both felt Poplar Fruit's sincerity, but they couldn't cross the hurdle caused by their traditional views. Poplar Fruit tried his best to explain, but if this most basic problem couldn't be solved, then they still couldn't come to an agreement. If we continue to argue, there won't be a conclusion. How about this? Father Fong waved his hand and sighed. Poplar Fruit, you go back first. It's getting late. There won't be a bus back to school if you're late. Let's find some time to have a good chat later. What's there to chat about? What's there to chat about? Mother Fong muttered. Poplar Fruit scratched his head. He wanted to say something, but he didn't. If you really care about Bei Bei. Father Fong rubbed his temples and said tiredly, just let her have a good rest. She's been crying since yesterday, and her face has turned pale. Also, you have to persuade her. She shouldn't be angry with her family about this. Father and mother are doing this for your own good. You don't know how much you're hurting her by arguing with your mother. Yes, I understand. Poplar Fruit nodded. What do you understand? Fong Bei Bei pinched the stupid guy with no EQ. She said to Father Fong and Mother Fong in a hoarse voice, if he goes back, I'll go with him. Don't you dare. Mother Fong shouted furiously as she stood up. However, Fong Bei Bei held on to Poplar Fruit's hand tightly and looked at Mother Fong unyieldingly. Baby, don't argue with your mother. Poplar Fruit persuaded. Your father is right. You should rest well at home. I'll go back first. I'll come back to see you tomorrow. You're coming back tomorrow? Don't ever show up at our doorstep. Mother Fong shouted angrily. Her words triggered Fong Bei Bei's stubborn temper. She said in a hoarse voice, I'll go with him. If you don't let him come, I won't come back. Father Fong hurriedly pulled his wife back and said, that's enough. Calm down. How can your temper be so bad? Poplar Fruit, go back first. We can talk again tomorrow. Poplar Fruit nodded. He even helped Father Fong persuade Fong Bei Bei, baby, be good. Don't cry. Don't cry, okay? Take a shower and go to sleep. I'll come back tomorrow. I promise that when you wake up tomorrow morning, I'll be there. I promise. Chapter 880. In the end, Poplar Fruit had to take a cab home. Before he went home, Fong Bei Bei pestered him and insisted that he wait until she finished showering and went to bed before he could leave. Mr. and Mrs. Fong looked awkward, but in the end, they couldn't persuade Fong Bei Bei. After he got home, Poplar Fruit was exhausted. He called Lu Suqin and asked about his daughter's situation. When he heard that she was already asleep, he felt relieved and went to bed. Fortunately, even though he was exhausted, Poplar Fruit slept for nearly 5 hours. He circulated his internal energy and quickly adjusted his body. At this time, it was still late at night. Poplar Fruit practiced a set of martial arts and took a shower. He sat in the empty room and waited for the sun to rise. When the sun rose, Poplar Fruit could ask Song Jiwen for a car and go to the Fang's house to continue the negotiations. He picked up his phone that had been charged. 2 days ago, not only his parents and sister, but also many friends who cared about him had called to ask about his well-being. However, because his phone was out of battery and he had come home late last night, Poplar Fruit couldn't reply to them one by one. Poplar Fruit sent a group message to tell them that he was fine and that he would talk to them in detail later. Poplar Fruit opened Weibo and sighed. He saw that the internet was still full of rumors and discussions about him. Even his Weibo comments and private messages were filled with irrational netizens' abuse. Of course, there were still many netizens who argued for him, but Poplar Fruit was annoyed by it. Poplar Fruit manually turned off the function to reply to the comments, temporarily blocking the netizens' criticism. Yangwa briefly looked at the summary of the rumors about her. She also saw the news of her friends standing up for her yesterday. She was angry but also touched. In fact, it had been more than 2 days since the paparazzi news and the Water Army's outbreak. Now, the state of public opinion on the internet was leaning towards two sides. The irrational netizens and the Water Army continued to slander Poplar Fruit. Poplar Fruit's diehard fans, celebrities, and even Poplar Fruit's teachers were all on Poplar Fruit's side. Poplar Fruit hadn't shown up for a long time and didn't say anything. This made some neutral fans unsure. Even if they wanted to believe in Poplar Fruit, they were repeatedly confused by the Water Army's rumors. Poplar Fruit thought about it and posted on Weibo, saying, "The innocent knows that they are innocent, and the muddy knows that they are muddy. Everyone knows what kind of person Poplar Fruit is. I don't care about those who slander me, but those who slander my girlfriend and daughter, please touch your conscience. Have you been eaten by dogs?" Poplar Fruit was a little angry when he posted this, but he was really angry, especially when he saw the rumors about Kiki. Poplar Fruit couldn't wait to ask Fat Dragon to find the person and cut him into pieces. After calming down, Poplar Fruit posted on Weibo again to clarify things and to thank his friends, teachers, and netizens for supporting him. "Thank you, Teacher Mo, Teacher He, and all my friends and family who helped me clarify things. Also, thank you to the netizens who supported me. Rumors stop with the wise. Let's not lower ourselves to the Water Army's level." It suddenly came to light that Poplar Fruit has been at his girlfriend's house for the past few days to ask for forgiveness. Bebe is a good girl. Poplar Fruit will work hard to get Uncle and Annie's understanding and recognition. After posting on Weibo, Poplar Fruit put his phone away. He was too lazy to look at the news on the internet. He didn't even have the mood to do the translation work that he insisted on doing every day. He was deep in thought, thinking about how to convince Father Fong and Mother Fong and how to get their recognition. However, Poplar Fruit didn't know that his 2 Weibo posts had set off a new wave of discussion on the internet. The first to react were the few online media that were paying close attention to Poplar Fruit's Weibo. The first to update was Tung Sun News, which had always maintained a good relationship with Poplar Fruit. They quickly screenshotted Poplar Fruit's 2 Weibo posts and tried their best to help Poplar Fruit clarify things. In the end, they even teased. It seems like Poplar Fruit's parents-in-law found out about the paparazzi's photos in advance. We wish him the best of luck in getting the beauty back in the end. Nanway Evening News also posted on their official Weibo, praising Poplar Fruit and Fong Beibei for being a perfect match. One was a good man, and the other was a good girl. They wished them a happy ending. Of course, not all media outlets were as clear-cut as the two of them. Many online media outlets even used Poplar Fruit scolded the Internet Water Army and claimed that rumors stopped at the wise as a gimmick to earn clicks. Qin Shui woke up very early. As soon as she turned on her computer, she saw the 2 Weibo posts that Poplar Fruit had posted. Among them, the phrase, "Don't lower yourself to the same level as the Internet Water Army," was very eye-catching. Don't lower yourself to the same level as XX. The original meaning of this sentence was not to argue with people with low knowledge and poor self-cultivation. Saying such words meant that Poplar Fruit despised them and placed himself in a higher position than them. Qin Shui smiled indifferently. He gently tapped the table with his index finger, not minding it at all. "I'm not afraid of you scolding people. I'm just afraid of you being indifferent." Qin Shui adjusted his glasses, and a sharp light was reflected from the lenses. In this way, we can use our backup move. After sending a few orders, The dozen or so Internet Water Army administrators under his control began to take action. When the people who took a nap woke up and the people who went to work in the afternoon began to take out their phones out of boredom, they were surprised to find that the public opinion, which had begun to improve a little in the morning, began to change in a magnificent manner again. Who was the mastermind behind the scandals and hype? An insider revealed that the previous hype was actually Poplar Fruit's self-directed and self-performed. It's absolutely true. The team behind Poplar Fruit has surfaced. Many rumors, true or false, began to wreak havoc on the entire internet. All the news pointed to one theme. Poplar Fruit wanted to use hype to maintain his popularity and crazily earn money. These rumors named names and even used some blurry fake photos to confuse the public. If one really analyzed it carefully, they would be able to find many loopholes. However, for the ordinary netizens who swept past without thinking, these rumors were almost like the truth, especially when they pointed out that the team behind Poplar Fruit was closely related to Givenchy. Now, Givenchy and Poplar Fruit had an advertising endorsement relationship. Some of the big places hung the advertisements of Poplar Fruit in Bali. Coupled with the fake data that they fabricated about Poplar Fruit's sky-high endorsement fee of tens of millions, even the netizens who had confidence in Poplar Fruit began to doubt whether this rumor was true. At this time, Teacher He and the others did not dare to make a sound. Although they felt that Poplar Fruit was not bad when they first came into contact with Poplar Fruit. After all, they had not known each other for long. In the industry, there were many people who tried to use hype to gain attention and take advantage of the opportunity to make a fortune. They did not want to become the accomplices of others. Chapter 881. The matter of Poplar Fruit's self-promotion became more and more intense, and it became confusing. Qin Shui and the others threw out two heavy revelations in the afternoon. The first was that Poplar Fruit had a secret meeting with the great director, Lian, in Beijing. He shook hands with Lian in the cinema and was photographed by someone. This news was spread that Poplar Fruit was favored by Lian and would star in his new movie. Not only that, but the informant also said the name of the movie. No one knew where he found it, but there was a corresponding Baidu encyclopedia. All of a sudden, the credibility of the informant increased. The second was even more explosive, and the evidence was completely true. Poplar Fruit was one of the shareholders of Wang Hetiani. Speaking of Wang Hetiani, everyone would think of Wang Shou and the unexpectedly that made Wang Hetiani famous. And the boss of this company, other than Wang Shou, everyone only knew two other people in Chengdu and Xinka. There was also a Poplar Fruit. However, the evidence obtained from the Industry and Commerce Bureau was irrefutable. Even the hardcore fans of Poplar Fruit, who wanted to defend Poplar Fruit, couldn't defend Poplar Fruit. Originally, Poplar Fruit was one of the shareholders of Wang Hetiani. This wasn't a big deal. To a certain extent, Wang Hetiani couldn't be considered an orthodox entertainment management company. In the eyes of the industry, it was just a small internet company. However, with so many things put together, they faintly formed a circle that surrounded Poplar Fruit. All the evidence, true or false rumors, revealed the faint connection between Poplar Fruit and the entertainment industry. People couldn't help but suspect the relationship between Poplar Fruit and this series of hype. I was admiring the mountain scenery on the city tower when I heard the commotion outside the city. In the afternoon, after refreshing the latest Weibo, Qin Shui stood up slightly proudly. She pinched her orchid fingers and hummed the Peking opera Empty City Stratagem. He walked leisurely, complimented by the elegant mahogany desk, paintings, and pendants in the office. He looked like a strategist who was strategizing and making decisions thousands of miles away. What made Qin Shui proud was not the rumors that he had fabricated to make the audience confused. It was his method of creating clouds and rain with a flip of his hand. First, they used a lot of hype to hype up Poplar Fruit. For 4 or 5 days, it was the hottest topic on Weibo. Then, they collectively changed their rhetoric and even changed their style of hype. They targeted the rumors that they had fabricated before. Not only did he point out the flaws in the previous hype, but he also framed all these mistakes on poplar fruit. Now, I don't think anyone will help you get away with it, right? After Qin Shui Shui finished singing, she picked up the cold tea on the table and drank it in one gulp. She said to herself proudly, "This is my real trump card. Although we don't have any grudges, who asked you to provoke my client?" Qin Shui Shui said with fake pity, "In this line of work, we take people's money and eliminate disasters for people. Poplar fruit, I'll say sorry for your bad luck." Poplar fruit was just a stepping stone for Qin Shui Shui to become China's #1 internet promoter. Qin Shui Shui had already skipped over the matter of poplar fruit and looked forward to his bright future proudly. Poplar fruit did not know about the change in public opinion on the internet at this time. At this time, he was already at the Fong family home, wearing an apron and busy preparing the most attentive and most delicious dinner for Father Fong and Mother Fong. Everyone was not wrong. Now, Father Fong and Mother Fong's attitude had changed greatly. Even Kiki, who had been a big rock in Father Fong and Mother Fong's hearts, was being held in Fong Beibei's arms and sitting opposite Father Fong and Mother Fong with their small eyes wide open. All the changes started this morning. Poplar fruit had not arrived yet, and Fong Beibei had not woken up yet. Mother Fong, who had not slept well all night, sat on the sofa in the living room and sighed. "Enough. Don't sigh. Tell me, what's the use of being worried?" Father Fong was annoyed by her noise and said irritably, "It's early in the morning. Hurry up and make breakfast. You're not hungry, but I'm hungry. Eat, eat, eat. You only know how to eat. I'm not doing it anymore." Mother Fong said angrily, "My daughter is in such a big situation, and I don't see you say anything." Father Fong said in a muffled voice, "When did I not say anything? Didn't you see it too? Beibei has already accepted poplar fruit. What do you think I should do? It's not like you don't know that your daughter is as stubborn as you. No one can change her mind about something she has decided on. If she says she's not coming back, you're asking her to jump into the fire pit?" Mother Fong said indignantly. "Yes, if it's really like what they say. Poplar fruit is very much to your liking, but have you thought about it? If your daughter really marries someone else and becomes a stepmother, how can you raise your head when you go out in the future?" Ring, ring, ring. Just as Mother Fong was scolding Father Fong, the doorbell of the Fong family's house rang. "Look, this shameless person is here before dawn," Mother Fong said angrily. "He's pestering Beibei, and we can't get rid of him. Isn't that disgusting?" Mother Fong did not want to open the door to discuss poplar fruit, but the sound from outside the door stunned them. Aunt, open the door. It's me." The person who was shouting like this could only be Mother Fong's niece, Fu Chunman, whom Fong Beibei called cousin. Her family owned a restaurant nearby. Fu Chunman had been like a tomboy since she was young. She had a good relationship with Fong Beibei. When she was young, she often brought Fong Beibei to her family's restaurant to cheat her out of food and drinks. Now that she was working, she often gave Fong Beibei pocket money. "Aunt, what's wrong? Are you still sleeping?" After opening the door, Fu Chunman asked with a smile, "Don't use that excuse to lie to me. I know that you and Uncle wake up very early. Are you still worried about Beibei's matter?" Fu Chunman said quickly, and Mother Fong could not get a word in edgewise. I know. The internet is full of news about Beibei and poplar fruit. My fingers are tired from reading it yesterday. Don't mention that name to me. The blood vessels in my head are about to explode." Mother Fong said angrily as she waved her hand. "Aunt." Fu Chunman smiled and took Mother Fong's hand. She pulled her into the living room and said, "I know you're unhappy. Look, I'm here to comfort you." "Comfort me?" Mother Fong snorted and sat down. She pointed at her and said, "You think I don't know that you and Beibei grew up together? Are you here to be her lobbyist?" "No way. I'm here today to scold poplar fruit with you. He's so inhumane," Fu Chunman said angrily. Chapter 882. Sister Man. Fong Beibei had already woken up. She was hiding at the staircase, eavesdropping on the conversation between her cousin and her parents. When she heard that Fong Beibei wanted to criticize poplar fruit with her mother, Fong Beibei was anxious and wanted to rush downstairs. Luckily, she managed to stop herself in the end. Based on Fong Beibei's understanding of Fu Chunman, she shouldn't be someone who would go back on her words. Mother Fong was also confused. She frowned and looked at Fu Chunman. She didn't know what her niece was up to. And if you ask me, this poplar fruit is really nothing. Fu Chunman patted the coffee table and said in a manly manner, he already has a daughter, but he still wants to mess with our Beibei. Don't you think so? Mother Fong couldn't help but nod, her face full of indignation. When I saw the news yesterday, a colleague talked to me about it. I wanted to slap him. Fu Chunman laughed. I said, who is this poplar fruit? What capabilities do you have to actually want to climb up the social ladder of our Beibei? Are you a toad that wants to eat swan meat? Mother Fong wanted to laugh, but she pretended to be reserved and said, it's not swan meat. Our family isn't a rich family, and Beibei is just an ordinary girl. We're not looking for a son-in-law to be of equal social status. But at the very least, he has to treat our Beibei well, and then be a simple person, right? We can't have a child. Our relationship will be too messy in the future. Yes, that's what I think too. Even if he brags to the heavens, we don't want him. Fu Chunman agreed. Mother Fong seemed to have found a united front. She held her niece's hand and laughed happily. Fong Beibei stomped her feet as she listened upstairs. She looked a little annoyed. Sister Man, what's wrong with you? Didn't you say you were going to help me? Fu Chunman smiled and said, Aunt, let me tell you something. Before I came here, I helped you find some information about poplar fruit. I was afraid that you would be deceived. Take a look. As she spoke, she took out a piece of Nanyue's evening paper. What is this? Old Fong, turn on the lights. Let me take a look. Mother Fong had presbyopia, so it was difficult for her to see the words clearly in the dim light. That's what others reported about him. Aunt, look, isn't it written here? He's from the countryside. Fu Chunman sighed as she continued. Our two families have already been registered in Yangcheng City many years ago, and we're still living in the countryside. Isn't that disgusting? Tell me, how can a young man from the countryside be worthy of our Beibei? Mother Fong leaned closer to read the newspaper. The newspaper was indeed talking about the young man from yesterday. His photo was still there. After reading the article line by line, Mother Fong said to Fu Chunman, that's not the case. He's already moved to Yangcheng, so he's also a city dweller. Also, Xiaoman, let me tell you, you can't be too picky. If you find someone you like, you have to grab hold of him. Look at you. You've been looking for someone for so long, and you still haven't brought anyone home. Tell me, as your elders, shouldn't we be anxious? It doesn't matter if he's from the countryside or not, just find someone you like. Even if he's from the countryside, as long as he's down to earth, honest, and knows how to dote on others, that's enough. Mother Fong looked at the newspaper and criticized Fu Chunman. It's not like our family doesn't have money. Isn't it easy to get him a city dweller? Besides, a city dweller's residence is still precious. Everyone can get a piece of land. Fu Chunman smiled bitterly and said in her heart, Beibei, I put myself in danger just to help you. Turning around, Fu Chunman smiled and said to Mother Fong, Yes, Aunt, you're right. Let's not talk about me. Let's look at this poplar fruit. You see, he's still in graduate school. He's 25 years old, and he's still studying. Other than translating a few books and having that Mo Yin as his teacher, what else can he do? He's a useless scholar. Our Beibei is so pretty, she should marry one of those millionaires and billionaires. If she marries into a rich family, then we can all bask in the glory. Don't you think so, Aunt? No. Mother Fong shook her head and said in disgust, An ordinary person is enough. Don't ever marry into a rich family. Didn't you see what the TV said? Those young ladies who marry into rich families have to learn to swallow their anger. They don't dare to talk back when their parents-in-law scolds them. Even if their husband cheats on them, they have to force a smile. Rich families aren't something that ordinary people like us can mess with. Then, Aunt, look at this. The corners of Fu Chunman's mouth curled up slightly as she smiled maliciously. Of course, her smile was very subtle. In this newspaper, it says that he will stay in school to teach. In less than 10 years, he will definitely become the most outstanding young professor in Dongshan University. Mother Fong looked at it for a long time and was a little confused. She realized that the newspaper only wrote about the good side of poplar fruit. There didn't seem to be anything bad about him. Hard work, responsibility, aren't those all good points? Fu Chun Man said, "Sigh, you make it sound as if the professor is a big fan of you. Aunt, let me tell you, if Bebe wants to find a husband, don't find one who's a teacher. A teacher only knows how to take care of the students and nothing else. In the end, the two of them won't even be able to afford a house. Maybe they'll have to rely on Bebe to support their family." Cough, cough. Father Fong was speechless. He couldn't help but cough. "Uncle, don't worry, I'm not talking about you." Fu Chun Man turned around and smiled. "I'm just saying that a teacher can't earn much money." Didn't you stop being a teacher a long time ago? Although he stopped being a teacher, Father Fong still had special feelings for the position of a teacher. His face darkened, and he said, "Don't look down on a teacher. What do you mean by a teacher can't earn much money?" Poplar Fruit said yesterday that he already bought a car and a house. Mother Fong saw that the old man was jumping around as if someone had stepped on his foot. She found it funny and comforted him. "All right, old Fong, don't throw a tantrum. I'm not saying that a teacher isn't good. If I thought that a teacher isn't good, why would I have married you back then? Actually, a teacher is quite good." Mother Fong tried to persuade Fu Chun Man, trying to change her mind. She said, "Teachers are all students, so they won't be like us when we do business, always scheming against each other. First of all, they're more innocent and won't harm others. Then a university professor is even more amazing." Mother Fong became more enthusiastic as she spoke, as if she had forgotten that they were talking about poplar fruit. A university professor's teaching frequency is not as high as a middle school or elementary school teacher's, and they have more freedom in their schedule. Now, many professors can make a lot of money by starting a side business in their spare time. Since you think that Bebe should find someone who is honest and loves her, and also likes to be a teacher and a professor's son-in-law, why don't you think that poplar fruit is good enough for you?" Fu Chun Man said with a smile. "Doesn't he fit your requirements?" Chapter 883. That's right. Since poplar fruit is a good guy and meets our standards, why can't we accept him? Fu Chuanman's mother and father were confused by Fu Chuanman's words. They even began to question themselves. "No." Mother Fong slapped her thigh, pointed at Fu Chun Man and said, "Xiao Man, didn't you say that you are here to help Aunt criticize poplar fruit? See, after a long time, you are here to help Bebe, aren't you?" Fu Chun Man smiled and quibbled. "Aunt, I'm not here to help Bebe, and I'm not blindly supporting anyone. I'm just objectively helping you analyze what kind of person this poplar fruit is. To be honest, isn't his character good? His background, knowledge, and work are all in line with Aunt's requirements, right? Aunt, such a good son-in-law is not easy to find." Fine, fine, fine. Don't try to fool me." A trace of hesitation appeared on Mother Fong's face, but she quickly said resolutely, "He is good, but no matter how good he has nothing to do with our family. Think about it. If a man with a child marries our Bebe at such a young age, how can our Fong family face the world?" Fu Chun Man knew that her aunt had this knot in her heart, but she already had a strategy to deal with it. Fu Chun Man smiled and said, "Aunt, I know. If it was another man or another child, would I still be willing to come and persuade you?" She reached out and shouted, "Bebe, it's time for you to show off. Quickly bring the things down." Fong Bebe didn't hide this time. She came down with the family's laptop. When Mother Fong looked at her, she was still pouting and looking unconvinced. Mother Fong ignored her. She turned her head and said to Fu Chun Man, "Xiao Man, what do you mean by this? Other men's children are other men's children. This poplar fruit's child, does she have 3 heads and 6 arms? Aunt, you may not believe me, but among my friends and colleagues, 9 out of 10 say that they like Kiki. Kiki is poplar fruit's daughter. She is very cute, looks like a little fairy, and also very smart and sensible." Fu Chun Man urged Fong Bebe and said to Mother Fong with a smile, "Seeing her, I feel like I have a gap in my life. After seeing her, even I want to find a man to give birth to a daughter. Fu Chunman held her chest and said longingly, Aunt Bei is too lucky. She has such a considerate and perfect boyfriend, and also a cute daughter calling her mom. Chi-Chi, call me sister. Fong Bei connected to the computer and said in a muffled voice, Are you jealous? Here, take it. Mother Fong waved her hand in disbelief. Take it, take it. Fu Chunman laughed heartily. Bei, you heard it. If your mom doesn't agree in the end, you can't stop me from pursuing poplar fruit. Hung. Fong Bei snorted angrily and didn't continue their conversation. Mother Fong looked at Fu Chunman suspiciously. She thought that Fu Chunman was deliberately provoking her. But now, it seems that there's something that she didn't know. Father Fong has been watching silently from his side. He had already seen through Fu Chunman's little tricks, but he was still puzzled. That poplar fruit, is it really worth it for her to be a lobbyist for his daughter? It is actually Happy Base Camp. After a long time, the video that Fong Bei broadcasted on TV turned out to be a video of Happy Stronghold. Although their family often watches the fast forward, but why did Fong Bei take it out now? What is this? Mother Fong looked at her daughter, frantically dragging the progress bar, and she suddenly remembered that the newspaper that her niece showed her just now mentioned that poplar fruit had participated in Happy Base Camp. The authority of Nanyue Evening News was without a doubt. In addition to what she saw yesterday, Mother Fong still believed that poplar fruit was like what the newspaper said, an outstanding young man. But Mother Fong felt that even if others exaggerated poplar fruit, Mother Fong wouldn't change her mind. The progress bar was a little too far behind, so Fong Bei hesitated for a while, but still chose to play it the moment poplar fruit appeared. Poplar fruit's appearance was still a little shocking to Mother Fong and Father Fong. After all, the big boy who stood outside their house shamelessly for a day and a night had suddenly turned into a shining star on the stage. The contrast was too huge. But before Mother Fong and Father Fong could recover from their shock, the background music and the style of the program suddenly changed, and a close-up of a cute little girl appeared on the screen. Huh! Father Fong couldn't help but laugh. Then it was Kiki's turn. Unfortunately, things didn't turn out as they had imagined. Chi-Chi suppressed the crowd the moment she appeared, and the little guy was scared. Seeing poplar fruit carry Kiki, the cute little girl in the princess dress revealed a charming smile. Mother Fong couldn't help but mutter, This is outrageous. How old is the child? Let her go on stage. It was Mr. He who invited her. Seeing that her mother was blaming poplar fruit, Fong Bei defended poplar fruit. Poplar fruit didn't want to agree at first, but Kiki thought it was fun and wanted to go on stage herself, so he let her go in the end. After that, Kiki once again completed a wonderful catwalk to the applause of the audience. During this process, Kiki's cleverness and cuteness, as well as poplar fruit's considerate fatherly love, were all reflected. Mother Fong and Father Fong began to fall silent. After watching Mr. He's introduction of poplar fruit and his questions about the many languages poplar fruit knew, Fong Bei skipped to the scene where Kiki went on stage again. Chi-Chi performed a short song. The little girl's voice was soft and childish. Even Mother Fong couldn't help but narrow her eyes. A smile began to bloom in the corner of her eyes. I taught her. Fong Bei puffed out her chest proudly after poplar fruit explained that Kiki's singing was taught by his girlfriend. During the balloon segment, Kiki stuck to her father and caused him to fail in the end. Father Fong couldn't help but laugh at this scene. Mother Fong looked at him and wanted to say something, but stopped herself. She wanted to laugh too, but this cute little girl was poplar fruit's daughter. She didn't want to laugh and felt terrible holding it in. My daughter is so cute. Fu Chunman didn't say anything so as not to affect the effect. Now that the video was over, she smiled and said, Auntie, don't talk about whether she's poplar fruit's child or not. Even if she has nothing to do with us, I still want to hug such a beautiful child. Kiki and Bei are very close. The two of them are like mother and daughter, or should I say, sisters. Fu Chunman smiled. Why can't we accept it? Kiki's mother passed away, and her mother was an orphan. She didn't have any relatives. Bebe and Poplar Fruit are married, so Kiki is her daughter and your granddaughter. Other than the fact that they aren't related by blood, they aren't inferior in any other way. Mother Fong fell silent. She didn't oppose it as strongly as before. Chapter 884. Standing in front of the Fong family's gate, Poplar Fruit gritted his teeth and pressed the doorbell resolutely. At this moment, a white and tender little finger suddenly appeared in front of Poplar Fruit's eyes. It was about to touch the doorbell that tugged at Poplar Fruit's heartstrings. Kiki. Poplar Fruit reacted quickly and pressed Kiki's little hand down. He glared at Kiki, who was too curious, and said in a low voice, "What did Dad say to you in the car? Come to Sister Bebe's house. Don't move, don't talk, and be obedient." That's right. Yangwa had thought about it for a long time today, and in the end, she still ran over to bring Chi-Chi over. She planned to go straight to the point and use Chi-Chi's charm to see if she could open up a gap between Father and Mother Fong. Dad pressed the doorbell. Kiki pouted. She was very dissatisfied with her father's behavior of only the magistrate is allowed to do whatever he wants, but not the common people. She heard her father press the doorbell, and then a muffled sound came from inside. This magical imagination made Kiki feel particularly interested. Go back. Dad will let you play as much as you want, but Kiki must be obedient today. Poplar Fruit began to threaten Kiki in her ear. As long as Kiki is obedient and behaves well, Dad will let you watch TV for a week, no, for a night. But if you don't behave well, Dad will take away Kiki's Barbie doll, and you won't be able to play with it for a month. Oh, no, Dad is bad. Kiki pouted, clenched her little fist, and punched her father's chest. Creak. The gate of the Fong family's house opened. The person who opened the door was an older sister that Poplar Fruit had never seen before. Poplar Fruit was dumbfounded. He held his daughter in his left hand and held the gift that he left in the car yesterday with his right hand. He looked up at the house number. That's right, it's here. Pucci, Fu Chun Man, who quickly ran out to open the door, smiled. The Poplar Fruit she saw did not have the airs of a celebrity at all. He only looked like a young man who had just married into his family. She covered her mouth and laughed. You're Poplar Fruit, right? I'm Bebe's cousin. Come in. Hello, cousin. Poplar Fruit shouted in a panic. Just call me Big Sister Man. Hiya, Kiki, how are you? Come, let me hug you, okay? Fu Chun Man stepped aside to let Poplar Fruit in. But when she closed the door, she immediately followed behind Poplar Fruit and smiled. Oh, Kiki shook her head and shyly hid her head in her father's arms. Facing strangers, Kiki's skin was still very thin. Uncle Annie, hello. After entering the door, Poplar Fruit saw Father and Mother Fong looking at him in unison, as well as his girlfriend, whose eyes were filled with joy. Big Sister Bebe. 2 days apart felt like 3 years. Kiki glanced at Fong Bebe, who was sitting in the innermost part of the room. She happily waved her little hand and shouted. She wanted to slide down from her father's arms and run over to Big Sister Bebe to tell her how much she missed her for the past 2 days. Poplar Fruit did not let Kiki go down. He urged Kiki in her ear, you also have to call them Grandpa and Grandma. Poplar Fruit felt that the better Kiki performed, the more likely Father and Mother Fong would acknowledge Kiki. However, Kiki hesitated and did not know how to say it. Call them Grandpa and Grandma. Who calls them Grandpa and Grandma? Fong Bebe got up and walked over to take Kiki from Poplar Fruit's arms. She seemed to be blaming her. Kiki curled her arms around Big Sister Bebe's neck in confusion. She was already confused by Big Sister Bebe. Calling them Grandpa and Grandma was understandable, but what were Grandpa and Grandma? This was the first time Kiki had heard of it. This is Big Sister Bebe's father, and this is Big Sister Bebe's mother. So Kiki has to call him Grandpa and her Grandma. Fong Bebe smiled and held Kiki's little hand as she explained. Father Fong was fine, but Fong Bebe pretended not to see Mother Fong's awkward expression. Although she did not quite understand, Kiki still obediently opened her golden mouth and called out crisply, Grandpa, Grandma. Although she still sounded like a child, her voice was very pleasant to the ears. Mother Fong wanted to reject this form of address, and also wanted to scold her daughter and Poplar Fruit. But in front of Kiki, Mother Fong only snorted slightly in the end. Her expression was awkward, and she did not say anything. Worried that Kiki would be frightened by the coldness, Fu Chunman smiled and walked over. She held Kiki's little hand and said, "Kiki is so obedient. Bebe, what do you think Kiki should call me?" Fu Chunman and Fong Bebe hugged Kiki as they chatted and laughed. Kiki also temporarily shook off the nervousness she had when she came in and revealed an angelic smile. Although Poplar Fruit was busy sending the gifts to Father and Mother Fong, their attention was uncontrollably attracted by Kiki. "All right, just leave it. You youngsters are all working together, aren't you?" Mother Fong snorted and said something that Yongguo didn't understand. Poplar Fruit swore that he did not collude with Fong Bei. Early in the morning, he drove on the road, thinking that his girlfriend was still resting. He did not even call her once. "All right, you Poplar Fruit." Fong Bei awkwardly changed her words quickly and called Poplar Fruit by his full name. She said, "My parents haven't eaten breakfast yet." "I haven't eaten either." Fu Chunman laughed. "Kiki hasn't eaten either." Kiki joined in the fun, raised her little fist, and giggled. "It's so late, and you don't let Kiki eat breakfast." Fong Bei glared at Poplar Fruit. "No, I let her drink milk before we came." Poplar Fruit complained. He scratched his head, looked at Father and Mother Fong, and asked, "Uncle Annie, why don't we go out for morning tea together? It's just the right time." "Who's we with you?" Mother Fong snorted, and her mouth was still unforgiving. When she said that, Father Fong moved half of his butt and sat down again. Let's go, let's go." Fu Chunman ran over with a smile, pulled Mother Fong, and tried to pull her up. "Did you drive here?" Fong Bei whispered to Poplar Fruit. "Papa drove." Kiki became lively and answered before her father could finish his sentence. "Yes, we should all be able to sit down. I'll start the car first, and you can lead the way later." "I don't know a good restaurant for morning tea," Poplar Fruit said softly. He took the keys and was ready to go out. "Old Fong, you drive our family's car. Why do you have to squeeze in with others?" Mother Fong was pulled by Fu Chunman, and when she heard Poplar Fruit's words, she shouted, "Dad, there's no need." Fong Bei walked over with Kiki in her arms, pulled her father's arm, and said with a smile, "Poplar Fruit's car is very big. It's definitely enough to sit down. Let's not waste it." Father Fong was pulled away by his daughter. Of course, he walked briskly, unlike Mother Fong, who was dragging. When he turned his head, he and Kiki stared at each other. The little girl was caught peeking, blinked, and quickly turned her head away. She shrank into Sister Bei's neck, pretending that nothing had happened. Chapter 885. Poplar Fruit stayed at the Fong family's house for the whole day. At night, he went out to buy groceries with Bei, preparing to show off his cooking skills. As for Kiki, she was left at the Fong family's house, and her parents took care of her on her behalf. Fu Chunman left at noon, as she had something to deal with at work. She would come over for dinner in the evening. Although Poplar Fruit and the others didn't know what happened at home while they went out to buy groceries, they seemed to have made good progress by leaving Kiki alone with her parents. Even Mother Fong, who had always been expressionless, seemed to have changed a lot. When Poplar Fruit and the others came back, Mother Fong pretended to be unhappy. However, the laughter that Poplar Fruit and the others heard outside the door was definitely not an illusion. "What did you say to Grandpa and Grandma?" Poplar Fruit secretly whispered to Kiki when no one was paying attention. Kiki told the story of Pleasant Goat and Beautiful Goat catching the big bad wolf. Chi-Chi waved her small hands, as if she was very proud of the fact that she had a very good audience just now. Her story was made up by her own imagination while playing with her crayons. Of course, no one could understand the drawing except for Chi-Chi herself. "Did Grandpa and Grandma like it?" Poplar Fruit asked with a smile. "Yes." Kiki felt that this question was questioning her. She stuck out her small chest and said, "Kiki is very sweet." Kiki liked some of the popular online slang, and she didn't even want to speak properly. Good. Kiki is awesome." Poplar Fruit smiled and rubbed Kiki's little head. He said, Kiki can continue to play with Grandpa and Grandma. Later, Daddy will make braised fish for Kiki, okay? Yes, yes. Kiki loves to eat braised fish the most, Kiki said with shining eyes. She liked to eat her father's dishes. No matter what it was, she would say that it was her favorite. Of course, Poplar Fruit knew that his daughter really liked to eat fish the most. Poplar Fruit turned around and walked towards the kitchen. However, he heard Kiki jumping around in the living room and shouting, Papa said that he wants to make braised fish, a very delicious braised fish. This little guy was really a little reserved when he was unfamiliar with someone, but when it was someone he was familiar with, he immediately became crazy. It hadn't even been a day yet. Now that she was familiar with her grandparents, she couldn't wait to share all the good news with them. Poplar Fruit blushed with shame as he followed Fong Bei, who was picking vegetables at the side, and said, Won't your parents be unhappy with Kiki's antics? It's okay. Fong Bei raised her head. Her somewhat thin face bloomed with a smile that made Poplar Fruit feel at ease. She said, Can't you see that they still like it very much? Don't be scared by my mother. Fong Bei's hands didn't stop moving. She continued, She's just scaring you. Actually, my mother is a very good person. She likes children very much. Although she kept saying harsh words yesterday, don't worry, she will accept Kiki. After being comforted by Fong Bei, Poplar Fruit's anxious heart finally calmed down a little. At this time, Fong Bei's cell phone rang. She wiped the water stains on her hands, picked it up, and looked at it. She said, It's a WeChat message from my cousin. Suddenly, her tone began to become very angry. Uncle, someone is still slandering you on the internet, saying that you're deliberately creating hype and fishing for fame. Before Poplar Fruit could say anything, Fong Bei became angrier and angrier. She was very familiar with Poplar Fruit. She could tell at a glance that the people on the internet were all framing Poplar Fruit. She said angrily, How can they say that? The previous things were obviously done by someone else, and now they're all blaming you, saying that you're creating hype. Okay. Poplar Fruit turned around with a smile and said lightly, Someone is deliberately slandering me. I know. Although I don't know who it is, let's ignore them. The more you ignore them, the more excited they will be. But uncle, you didn't do this. You're being scolded for no reason, Fong Bei said with a pout. Although they were scolding Poplar Fruit, Fong Bei had already linked Poplar Fruit to herself. If it weren't for the fishy smell of the fish that he had just caught, Poplar Fruit would have hugged Fong Bei and comforted her. He smiled and said, Baby, are they saying that I'm creating hype to become famous? Yes, Fong Bei said as she looked at her cell phone. Then we shouldn't respond. Poplar Fruit smiled calmly and said, It takes two to clap. They're arguing on the internet like this. After a while, no one will care about them. But Fong Bei was still a little unhappy. It's okay. Anyway, I don't want to be a star. I don't care what others think of me. As long as you still believe in me and trust me, that's enough. Poplar Fruit smiled brightly and said, The most important thing now is to let your parents recognize me as their son-in-law. Fong Bei was overjoyed by her boyfriend's affectionate words at the beginning. All the rumors on the internet were thrown to the back of her mind. She smiled and nodded sweetly, then continued to help Poplar Fruit pick the vegetables. After a while, Fong Jingji's father staggered over and stood at the door to take a look. He saw Poplar Fruit cutting the shredded potatoes deftly with a knife. He nodded slightly and turned to leave. Uncle, Poplar Fruit could sense it, but when he turned around to say hello, he only saw Fong Jingji's father's back as he left. Baby, your father came and left just now. After Fong Jingji's father left, Poplar Fruit asked Fong Bei nervously, You said that he didn't say anything. Did he think that I did something wrong? It can't be, right? Fong Bei was also a little nervous. Without a clue, Poplar Fruit could only continue to struggle with the meat dishes. He used 200% of his kung fu to stir-fry the vegetables. The big iron wok shook like a chef in a 5-star hotel. Oof. Fang Jingji's mother walked over and saw Poplar Fruit sweating profusely as he stir-fried the vegetables. Fang Beibei thoughtfully handed him a plate and wiped the sweat off his forehead. She snorted with a strange expression and left without saying a word. Poplar Fruit and Fang Beibei looked at each other until Fang Beibei laughed and pushed him and said, "Ignore my mother. Don't burn the vegetables." "Wow, it smells so good. I want to taste it." With a cheer, Fu Chunman came back. She shouted and went straight to the dining table. There, Fang Beibei had already brought 6 dishes to the table. Each dish was steaming hot, delicious, and juicy. It looked, smelled, and tasted good. It was enough to make one's appetite soar. "My papa made it." Chi-Chi happily ran over and pointed at the table and said proudly. However, after seeing Fu Chunman eat, she immediately got angry. "Sister, you're so bad. You're eating Papa's food. If you don't wash your hands, there will be worms in your stomach. Sister, use chopsticks. Come, Kiki, try it too." Fu Chunman smiled and changed chopsticks. She picked up a piece of mushroom and gave it to Kiki. Immediately, the little girl was bought over. She chewed with her little mouth and didn't have time to expose and report. Fang Jingji's mother followed behind Kiki to protect her, worried that she would fall. Fang Jingji's mother glanced at the sumptuous dishes on the table. After a while, she found a flaw. It's a waste if we can't finish all these dishes." Chapter 886. Coming back from his girlfriend's house. Poplar Fruit was not as confused as he was at the beginning. Now the mother-in-law's attitude had changed a lot. Not only did she not express a strong objection to the existence of Kiki, but she also had a good time with Kiki when Poplar Fruit was not present. Of course, she was still serious about Poplar Fruit, but compared with before, she had made great progress. Fang Beibei did not come back with Poplar Fruit as she wished. She still needed to continue the ideological work of her parents at home. However, according to her curriculum plan, she would come back to class in 2 days at the latest. "Kiki, do you like Grandpa and Grandma?" Poplar Fruit drove the car and asked Kiki in the back seat with a smile. The little fellow was very happy today because her grandparents had been around her since noon, listening to her stories. Yes, Kiki twisted her body and wanted to move, but she was restrained by the seatbelt. She had already learned to untie the seatbelt by herself. If she was not careful, she would untie it and slip down, which gave Poplar Fruit a headache. For the safety of his daughter, Poplar Fruit spent the afternoon remodeling the baby's safety seat. The buckle of the seatbelt was replaced with a password lock. Even if Kiki could open it, she could not open it without the password. Then, Dad will take Kiki to Grandpa and Grandma's house to play next week, okay? Poplar Fruit asked with a smile. He felt that he played the family card well and wanted to continue to use it. Okay. Kiki wants to eat prawns. Kiki felt that she had a good time at her grandparents' house. The most important thing was that her father rarely prepared such a sumptuous meal, and her grandmother also peeled prawns for her to eat. Fang Beibei forgot to tell him that Poplar Fruit did not know that the reason why he was able to enter the door so smoothly was actually because Fang Beibei and Fu Chunman had paved the way for him. When he got home, Poplar Fruit reported his safety to everyone. He also reported to Lu Suqin and his mother, who were anxiously waiting for his progress. "Mom, don't worry. Beibei's family's attitude has improved a lot," Poplar Fruit said with a smile. "Yes, Uncle and Aunt especially like Kiki. No, you don't have to come over." Poplar Fruit was sweating profusely as he shouted. "They're still trying to get used to each other. If you come over, you might scare them." Poplar Fruit persuaded his mother in every way possible. He comforted her and said, "Don't worry. I'll try my best to talk to Beibei and try to bring her home for you to meet next year." Poplar Fruit was being careful. Although it was said to be next year, it might not necessarily be the spring festival. Poplar Fruit was not sure yet. After he got home, Poplar Fruit's life went back to normal. Although Fang Beibei was not back yet, and although there were paparazzi downstairs, Poplar Fruit did not accept any interviews or join the online scolding war. He happily went to exercise in the morning as usual went to school during the day, and came back at night to buy groceries, cook, and take care of Kiki. Other than calling Poplar Fruit's close friends, teacher he, and other friends in the entertainment industry to explain, Poplar Fruit put aside the public opinion criticism on the internet. This made Qin Shui feel especially uncomfortable. He thought that Poplar Fruit would jump out and scold them in an emotional state. Then, he could command the internet water army to have a fierce scolding war with Poplar Fruit. They were not afraid of scolding Qin Shui. They were even looking forward to it. After all, they were professional trolls. However, Poplar Fruit completely ignored them. This made Qin Shui panic. The word she had prepared turned into a pile of waste paper and useless data on the hard drive. Is this a human? Qin Shui thought angrily. Is a human who has to fight back even if he's beaten up? He's been slapped in the face, yet he's still indifferent? Although they were indeed very happy to scold him on the internet, and many netizens were bewitched by them, Poplar Fruit did not respond, which made his plan fail to achieve the best effect for a while: the entire population of Poplar Fruit. More importantly, the customers were unhappy. Li Zichao had spent millions of yuan just to see Poplar Fruit in a sorry state and exhausted state. But now that the paparazzi had reported that Poplar Fruit did not seem to be affected at all, how could Li Zichao be happy? Poplar Fruit's attitude made many netizens who were still skeptical start to calm down. They began to reflect on the ups and downs on the internet in the past week. Qin Shui and the others' conspiracy could not be hidden for long. At this time, Poplar Fruit's casual evaluation spread from the student circle of Higashiyama University and quickly spread on the internet. If you have a clear conscience, then you can deal with it with equanimity. If you have a guilty conscience, then you can't escape the bright eyes of the masses. Yang said this when he was teaching a class. When a student asked him about it, he would calmly answer with a smile. This sentence was quite philosophical. At first, it was forwarded by a few students. Later, after it was reposted by some influential Weibo, it finally appeared in front of the wavering netizens, including the official Weibo of Yangcheng Evening News. They also specially posted a long Weibo to introduce the whole incident and Poplar Fruit's response. They praised Poplar Fruit for really having the wise and elegant bearing of a scholar. Although Qin Shui was still trying her best to mobilize the internet water army to continue struggling, many netizens who had woken up had already made different comments about them. However, the real conclusion of this matter was a piece of news reported by Nanyue Evening News a week later. Since November, Yanghua had experienced the nationwide popularity after the release of the novel. He had also experienced the low point of being slandered by the internet water army and the betrayal of his fans. However, he still calmly completed his thesis and made a summary of his 6 months of research on the theory of translation. The thesis, which was close to 100,000 words, was published by Translator Expert. Not only did it occupy a large page, but Translator Expert also added pages for Poplar Fruit for the first time, which meant that the November issue of Translator Expert became the most special issue since its publication. Nanyue Evening News interviewed Dean Yuanqing of Guangdong Foreign Language School, who was considered one of the most authoritative experts in the translation and language field in Guangdong. He gave a very objective evaluation of Poplar Fruit's thesis. Although it was an objective evaluation, Dean Yuan was not stingy with his praise. He said that Poplar Fruit's thesis had completely established the position of variation theory, the best translation theory in the new century. Now we can see that the theory of variation has the value of changing an era. I hope that after the in-depth research of Poplar Fruit and other experts, the theory of variation can play a cornerstone role in the communication and dissemination of our country's culture in the future. On the internet, the well-known Professor Luo Lin also posted on Weibo and praised Poplar Fruit. You can publish a book now. Don't forget, when the time comes, send me a copy. I've already become your fan. Qin Shui and the others were still waving flags and shouting battle cries, trying to make the netizens believe that Poplar Fruit was maliciously creating hype with the intention of becoming famous and making money. However, Poplar fruit had quietly achieved great success in other fields, giving these internet water army a resounding slap in the face. Who would continue to believe them? Chapter 887. Bang, bang, bang. In an ordinary residential building in Yangsheng, there was a house that looked a little shabby. The door was knocked so hard that the ground shook. However, no matter how hard the door was knocked, the entire corridor was quiet. Every door was tightly shut, as if no one had left the room. "Captain, there doesn't seem to be anyone." A young policeman who knocked on the door said in a low voice. Turning around, there were 15 or 16 policemen standing or crawling in the corridor. Not only were they armed, but they were also wearing thick bulletproof vests. "Captain, the camera!" A policeman walking at the back suddenly pointed at the light bulb above his head and shouted in a low voice. He looked up. Wasn't that right? In a ceiling lamp above his head, other than the light bulb, there was also a rotating camera. "Break the door." The captain calmly waved his hand. He could not wait any longer. He could only break the door and enter. Behind him, a policeman carrying a large battering ram ran forward and swung it hard at the door. Boom! Under the lead of the captain, several policemen holding pistols entered in a single file amidst the splinters of wood flying in the air. "Police, put down your weapons and kneel down with your hands on your head." A wave of panic shouts was mixed with the energetic scolding of the policemen. There was a commotion and a few sounds of fists hitting flesh. Finally, the house quieted down. However, it was not over. The police who were guarding downstairs and had surrounded the entire building caught two fugitives who had taken a risk to climb down from the window. They caught them and slipped back into the house. "It hurts, it hurts, it hurts." Qin Shui was really unlucky these few days. Originally, 2 days ago, Poplar Fruit's desperate counterattack had caused him to be covered in dust. He did not know how to explain it to his clients. In the end, when he came to the headquarters of the Internet Water Army today, he was beaten up by the police again. According to their usual experience, the police would at most arrest them and educate them. After paying some money, they would be fine. After all, there was no special law to convict them of spreading rumors on the internet. However, Qin Shui was the main culprit. If he escaped, everyone would have a better life. It would also allow the police to exploit them less. "Behave yourself," a young policeman shouted in a muffled voice as he held him down. "Isn't it just a small mistake?" Qin Shui said very slyly. "Sir, do you have to be so serious?" The black-faced and selfless police officer pulled him into the house and ignored him. At this time, Qin Shui had gradually felt that something was wrong. Just now, there were many police cars with flashing lights downstairs, and there were also many policemen walking in the corridor. After entering, he was even more dumbfounded. How were these policemen in front of him? The two words, "special police," were reflected in his eyes. Turning her head, Qin Shui was shocked to discover that the police officer who had grabbed him was also fully armed. His waist was bulging, and there must be a pistol stuffed there. Ouch! Before he had time to think about it, the young policeman who was on guard against him saw him sneakily looking at his pistol. Thinking that there was a ghost, he exerted force and pressed him to the ground. "Brother, you're my biological father," Qin Shui wailed. "Don't, it hurts." After calming down, Qin Shui said weakly, "Officer, did you recognize the wrong person? I'm just doing public relations online. Why do I need you to make such a big fuss?" "Qin Highball." The captain put his pistol back into his holster and asked in a deep voice, "Is it you?" Qin Shui was stunned. He had always used his online name, so his real name had become a little unfamiliar. After hesitating for a moment, he nodded and said, "It's me. Someone reported you for illegally selling drugs and gathering people to take drugs." The captain looked at him coldly. When Qin Shui heard this, her body trembled violently. He had the habit of secretly taking drugs, but that was only the beginning of this year, so the amount wasn't large. But he had never done the bad things that this police officer said. He knew that if he sold it in large quantities, it would be a capital offense. "No, absolutely not. Qin Shuishui shook her head vigorously and cried out loudly, "Police officer, I'm innocent. I'm a good person. How could I do such an illegal thing?" "You can save that for the court to tell the judge." The captain snorted coldly and took a bag of white flour from a police officer. He threw it on the table in front of Qin Shuishui and said, "This was found under your sofa cushion." Qin Shuishui swore that he had never seen this bag of things before. Even though, with his decades of experience watching police and bandit movies, Qin Shuishui knew what this was, but this really wasn't his. His was still hidden in the safe at home, and it was more than half of this. How is this possible? How is this possible? Qin Shuishui looked at the at least half a pound of white flour in horror. With this amount, not to mention the sentence for selling, even if it was illegal possession, it would be enough for him to eat in prison for more than 7 years. Qin Shuishui's eyes suddenly flashed with the warning that Li Zichao had given him when he had accepted Li Zichao's $1 million reward. "You better not lie to me. Otherwise, I'll make you beg for death. I'm innocent. I'm innocent." Qin Shuishui's tears and snot flowed out. He ran over and hugged the captain's thigh. He cried out, "Someone must have framed me. I really didn't put this thing there. If you didn't put it there, why are you running?" The captain snorted and got someone to drag him away. He said, "Whether it's yours or not, we'll naturally find out. But I advise you to honestly tell us the source of the poison so that we won't have to interrogate you when the time comes. Take him away." Following the captain's order, the police officers with live ammunition majestically escorted a group of dejected or terrified internet trolls away from the crime scene. The next day, in the most luxurious 5-star hotel at the foot of Yangqing's small waste, Li Zichao crumpled the newspaper in his hand into a ball and threw it into the trash basket. A trace of tyrannical pleasure flashed across his face. Bah, trash. This was not the first time he had dealt with those trash subordinates who had taken his money and messed up his matters. But this time, Li Zichao had become even crazier. He had actually framed Qin Shuishui, who had previously declared her loyalty to him, into a prison cell. Cleaning up these trash did indeed make Li Zichao feel a little morbid excitement, but did not reach his G-spot at all. What he wanted to see was for someone to ruthlessly trample Poplar Fruit to the ground and trample on this former love rival with all his might. "Even if you're just her shield. But if you provoke me, I won't let you off." Li Zichao took a step forward and stepped on the newspaper that had fallen onto the floor instead of being put into the trash basket. His big foot moved away, and a small piece of news could be faintly seen on it. "The Yangqing police have solved a major Tibetan drug case. The mastermind is actually the malicious initiator of the Poplar Fruit hype incident that caused a lot of commotion some time ago. According to reports, Qin XX is a big V on Weibo with as many as 6 million fans. He personally admitted that everything was planned by him." Chapter 888. Come back. Just as Li Zichao was going crazy in the hotel, smashing things everywhere, his cell phone suddenly rang. After the call was connected, a slightly gloomy male voice spoke. "What?" Li Zichao shouted. "Dad, didn't you say that I could skip work for 2 weeks a month?" The person who called was Li Zichao's father, a man that Li Zichao looked down on, but who he had to rely on for his luxurious life. On the phone, Li Zichao's father snorted and said, "Okay, don't think that I don't know what you've been doing these days." "Dad," Li Zichao said, feeling wronged, "are you going to speak up for that Poplar Fruit?" "Him? He's just an actor. You could do whatever you want. I won't care about you," Li Zichao's father said coldly. "But you shouldn't be involved in that kind of thing. Plus, the Zheng family caught you red-handed." Dad, should I run away first?" Li Zichao panicked. He knew that Zheng Yujie and he were enemies now. Okay, if they wanted to touch you, it wouldn't be my turn to talk to you." Li Zichao's father was a little depressed. Although his official position was high, he was still far behind Zheng Mingsheng, who had become a big official in Guangdong province, one of the economic leaders. "It's different now," Li Zichao's father couldn't help but sigh and say, the new #1 official has ascended the throne, and no one knows what he's going to do. So, you better come back and know your place. With me watching you, at least you won't be harmed by others. Don't talk about your own death. When the time comes, I'll be implicated by you. So, we're just going to let it go? Li Zichao felt so wrong that he wanted to vomit blood. He shouted, are we just going to let this poplar fruit go? Have you forgotten? If it weren't for him, I would have been the son-in-law of the Zheng family. Debts can be slowly collected. Mr. Li said slowly, every dog has its day. Zheng Mingsheng won't be able to enjoy his glory for long. Li Zichao's father didn't wait for Li Zichao to speak. He didn't allow Li Zichao to say anything. Don't cause trouble outside. The bigger picture is more important. As soon as he put down the phone, Li Zichao smashed it again. His expression was ferocious, and he was so angry that he was panting. Finally, he gritted his teeth and said, poplar fruit, just you wait. This matter is not over yet. Zheng Yujie, who was far away in Beijing, finally heaved a sigh of relief when she saw that poplar fruit had finally been cleared of wrongdoing and that the online promoter named Qin Shuishui was about to face endless lawsuits and jail time. These days, Zheng Yujie was sad and distressed. She used to be a tough lady in the capital, but now she was living like a delicate little sister, Lin Daiyu. It was all because the word love was too difficult to write. Seeing the photo of poplar fruit and Feng Beibei walking around the campus hand in hand, Zheng Yujie was really, really sad. She didn't cry. She just sat by the bed and emptied herself for the whole night in a daze. Then, she fell seriously ill with a fever and a foredrip. However, when she saw that poplar fruit was besieged by so many internet trolls on the internet, Zheng Yujie's broken heart was picked up and glued back on itself. Even though she knew that that man already had another girl by his side, she was still worried about him. She didn't know how to eat for him, and she felt worried and anxious for him. Zheng Yujie could see the existence of the internet trolls behind this at a glance. However, it was the internet after all, and she couldn't do anything about it. Even if she wanted to help, the only way was to find out the mastermind behind this and beat him up. For this reason, she looked for Kai Simin, and Kai Simin found Fat Dragon, who often bragged about his hacking abilities. Fat Dragon easily dug out the information about Qin Shuishui, the mastermind behind all the internet trolls. And on Qin Shuishui's computer, Fat Dragon found the existence of Li Zichao, the actual culprit. So it was him. Zheng Yujie was so angry that she wanted to quarrel with Li Zichao. Unfortunately, Li Zichao appeared and disappeared unpredictably, and Zheng Yujie couldn't find him. In the end, Zheng Yujie asked her father, who had already taken office in Guangdong province, to help Li Zichao stop the matter of poplar fruit. However, she also wanted to help poplar fruit. She was so anxious that she couldn't find anyone, but she actually found Zheng Mingsheng. After all, poplar fruit had once walked into Zheng Mingsheng's field of vision as Zheng Yujie's boyfriend. With this relationship, poplar fruit had played with his daughter's feelings. Zheng Mingsheng was already merciful enough not to add insult to injury. Help him? Anyway, Zheng Mingsheng turned his head and threw his daughter's request for help aside. He didn't have time to argue with poplar fruit. How could a child's family be more important than the livelihood of Guangdong province? Fortunately, because of poplar fruit's calm handling, this storm slowly lost its original influence and quickly fell from the trending list. Then, what was the situation with Zheng Mingsheng's warning that Father Li mentioned? Just as Father Li Zichao said, Li Zichao shouldn't have been poisoned. Because Qin Shuishui's situation was more serious, it was exposed by the media. Before that, Zheng Mingsheng naturally found out about the news. When he heard the name poplar fruit, who was unintentionally involved, he became curious. After carefully understanding the arrest process, Zheng Mingsheng keenly realized that it wasn't as simple as hiding poison. Then, Zheng Mingsheng found out that Li Zichao had come to Guangzhou. He smiled. What? There was no direct evidence that Li Zichao had framed Qin Shuishui. Did big shots need evidence to do things? He only needed to guess this fact. Yes, Zheng Mingxing threatened the Li family with this guess. Actually, the Li family didn't have to worry. After all, this was just a guess, wasn't it? However, as long as Zheng Mingxiang gave the order to investigate to the end, he would definitely be able to dig out the relationship between Li Zichao and Qin Shuishui. If he continued to investigate, no one could guarantee that Li Zichao hadn't left any clues behind in the process of framing Qin Shuishui. In order to ensure Li Zichao's safety, in order to ensure that nothing would happen during this critical period, Father Li had no choice but to compromise. He had paid a high price, including getting his cousin, who was a deputy director in Guangdong province, to openly support him for at least half a year. The older the ginger, the spicier it was, the older the fox, the more cunning it was. Zheng Mingxiang was the biggest beneficiary of this incident. He even received his daughter's gratitude. Zheng Yujie, who was in a hurry to help the man she liked escape, had not lost her rationality. She did not believe that her father would sacrifice so much to frame Qin Shuishui. She simply thought that her father had sent people to capture Qin Shuishui, but in the end, he had captured such a big drug lord. Popper Fruit had no idea about all of this. In fact, when Qin Shuishui was captured, many people on the internet were happy for Poplar Fruit. He ignored them and continued to live his life as usual. Of course, he had recently posted a new Weibo post with a photo and 2 words. The photo was of him and Fong Beibei raising their palms and smiling faces, and the 2 words were Chapter 889. It was gradually approaching the end of November. It was getting closer and closer to the day when Poplar Fruit would leave for Beijing to attend the Nobel Prize ceremony. This also meant that Poplar Fruit would have to be separated from Fong Beibei for more than half a month. After all, Fong Beibei still had her own schoolwork. She could not skip class to accompany Poplar Fruit to Sweden. Feeling the sadness of parting, Fong Beibei had been sticking to Poplar Fruit for the past few days. Poplar Fruit was the same. He went to class with his students, Fong Beibei accompanied him, and Fong Beibei went to her undergraduate course. If there was nothing else, Poplar Fruit would bite the bullet and secretly follow them. Of course, Fong Beibei accompanied Poplar Fruit more. After all, Poplar Fruit was a busy person. First, there was a small problem with the remote teaching. It wasn't that their equipment or system wasn't good enough. Everyone was using it well. Moreover, Yang Guo had already finished recording what he thought was the most basic clumsy fist martial arts teaching. Many children in Xiong village would wake up every morning to practice martial arts. However, when they practiced the moves of the Benben fist, they shouted the names of the moves in the novel: 18 Dragon Subduing Palms and 19 White Bone Claw. There was no other way. There was a boy in Jincheng who had learned how to tell stories from his grandfather since he was young. The stories he told them about martial arts novels were too exciting. The situation happened to a Miao child in a nearby mountain village. His father worked in Buddha City, and his leg was broken by a stone at work. All of a sudden, the family had no one to rely on. Not only was his father lying in the hospital, losing his only labor force, but to make matters worse, in order to treat his father's injury, the family had to constantly raise money to pay for the hospital's medical expenses. It was said that his father was disheartened. In order not to drag his family down, he even prepared to jump down from the hospital building. Fortunately, his injured leg was inconvenient, and he was rescued by the doctors and nurses who rushed over. The child's mother had already rushed over to take care of his father, and the child had no intention of going to school. He told the elders that he wanted to go out to work and earn money for the family. But he was only 12 years old. Of course, Poplar Fruit would not sit by and do nothing. On one hand, he contacted Meng Ping and asked him to help spread the word so that more people would join in and show their love for the child. On the other hand, he also brought Wang Yuba and several lawyers from the legal department that Yao Dehua had given him to go to Buddha City to seek justice for the child's father and mother. Since it was a work injury, they should at least be compensated, right? When Poplar Fruit left Yangcheng for Beijing, the matter was still ongoing. The lawyer was still negotiating with the construction team and the construction company. However, after much persuasion, the child had already returned to class. He temporarily stayed with the Xiong G5 families. Before his parents returned, there were still elders who took care of him and cared for him. Before the news of this child spread, Poplar Fruit had already prepared to give the 50 seed interpreters of New Translation Road Publishing House a second lesson. Although it was delayed for 2 days because of the child, Poplar Fruit still rushed to give them a day of tutoring before leaving Yangcheng. This time, Poplar Fruit did not talk about pure theory. He combined the students' completion status with their homework and analyzed their shortcomings and strengths. Yes, Poplar Fruit would analyze their strengths. He knew that their weaknesses needed constant effort to slowly make up for them. At the same time, they should not give up on their strengths. They should learn how to transform these strengths into their own characteristics, or to transform them into characteristics that others would like. When I help you perfect or redefine yourselves, I'm actually constantly learning. During the lesson, Poplar Fruit smiled at them. Because when I see you guys, I suddenly realize, oh, so this kind of translation can have such a unique performance. I think you're very lucky, because you can make progress together with 49 equally excellent friends. Among them, you've learned from me, and you've also learned from your friends. Poplar Fruit laughed. Perhaps this is an important meaning of our class. I hope that the next time I see you, you'll be even better. Speaking of the 50 seed interpreters of New Translation Road Publishing House, one had to mention the achievements of New Translation Road Publishing House in the past November. There was no doubt that Old Master Mo Yan's books were selling very well. Riding on the momentum of the Nobel Prize in Literature winner, Yang's translations had sold more than 20 million copies worldwide. That was only the sales of physical books in 1 month. Counting the sales of ebooks in the coming year, the sales of ebooks, it would be very impressive. Of course, because the old man was too famous, the publishing house didn't make much money from him. Excluding the share from Amazon, the publishing house and the old man split the profits 30-70. Excluding the shares, as a translator, Poplar Fruit received 0.5% of the profits. If it were any other author, it wouldn't be so low. In other words, if the price was $15 per book after deducting the operating expenses and taxes, Poplar Fruit could still get a pre-tax payment of over $5 million. That was just the beginning. Most importantly, the foundation of the future publishing house was web novels. Unexpectedly, the sales of physical books were relatively mediocre, but the sales of ebooks had been showing an exponential growth. Unknowingly, the first 5 web novels on the shelves had received nearly 200,000 ebook downloads. Compared to the 500 sales of a single book last month, it was a great improvement. However, as time passed and new web novel translations were launched by New Translation Road, the momentum of growth didn't slow down. Poplar Fruit received an estimate from Pang Yu. It was said that the sales of these 5 books would exceed 500,000 before the end of the year. Note that the 500,000 mentioned here was an average of 500,000 per book. That was real sales data. The copyright protection overseas was so considerate that it was touching. As long as there was a good work, it wasn't impossible for it to be sold out. Of course, the sales of these 5 web novels weren't very equal. Different types of novels had different sales levels. For example, the sales of fantasy novels would be higher than the sales of Xinxia novels with strong Oriental culture. Poplar Fruit and Pang Yu both noticed this. In the future, they might adjust the trend of publishing books. However, Poplar Fruit didn't really believe in this data. In his opinion, this wasn't fixed. Maybe in the future, everyone would have a deeper understanding of Oriental culture through web novels, and there would be more readers who would like to read Xinxia novels. Poplar Fruit came back from the publishing house and casually chatted with Fong Beibei about these things. Fong Beibei even helped him finally calculate how to design the income distribution ratio of the publishing house, authors, and translators with great interest. Both of them seemed to be careless and neglected a fact. That was, if they only calculated the share of old Master Mo's works, Poplar Fruit seemed to be almost a billionaire. That you're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.